And we are live. All right. Don't touch my go bag. That's my baby. I'm playing me. All right. Which one? Oh, yeah.
Where's Miss Shirley and Chris? Aren't they going to come?
Yeah, they're on the way. Everybody's on the way. So we're gonna.
That's what you bounce them out.
That's yes. I closed the door.
Jack them up a little bit.
Hello. Yeah. Made empty threats. You know how it's. There's something. There we go.
You're very perceptive.
Let's test. Okay. That works.
She's like, we're gonna leave now. They end up staying.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming to Faith Camp. We are going to have a word of prayer. We're going to sing a couple songs, and then we'll get started, okay? All right. So if everyone would please join me in prayer, I would appreciate it. Any prayer requests before I get started? Anybody have anything on their hearts or minds? Yes, little one.
I was going to say this earlier in church. Since you said where you got the questions, I would like to pray for my kitty, a thank you request, and a prayer.
Okay.
Here's my thank you request.
Yeah.
I am thankful that my kitties are finally big, like growing. It's time. They can tackle each other finally, and that they grow more to be good.
Okay. Amen.
Amen.
Kitties, for the kitties, we're going to pray for the kitties and the children as well.
Yeah.
All kitties. Welcome, Brother Bubba. First time I've seen you, so welcome. We're glad to have you here today for Faith Camp. So we have a great program prepared, and we'll just have a word of prayer before we get started, and we'll sing a hymn, and then we'll get started. So let's bow your heads, close your eyes. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this beautiful day today. We know it's getting hot out there, and we thank you for the nice, cool building that we have where we can come together and hear a word from you. We ask you to be with our sister Monique in a very special way today. That you would bless her and bless her presentation that she has prepared for us. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. All right. Anybody have a favorite hymn they would like to sing? Not I'm going to pick one. And I found one. 526.
Because he lives.
526. The reason you should be here today. Yes, let's stand. Get the blood flowing. Especially after lunch. I should just make you stand for the whole thing. That would not be nice. All right. Kathy, do you know?
Oh.
Not 526. We'll have Nick.
We have some demos right there. Yeah, I just noticed it.
God sent his son, they called him Jesus. He came to love, heal and forgive. He lived and died to bear the pardon and empty graves there to prove my Savior lives. Because he lives, I will face tomorrow. Because he lives, all fear is gone. Because I know he holds the future, and life is worth the living just because he lives. How sweet to hold a newborn baby and feel the pride
living just because he lives. Thank you. That was awesome. Please have a seat. I meant to sing more songs, but this is the message of today, so we might as well just stop right here. And just wanted to remind everybody that we live in uncertain times. If you forgot, if you're not sure, there's lots going on around us. But because he lives, we can face tomorrow. God has given us a beautiful, wonderful gift of his word. We can live with certainty knowing that he's coming back soon. And a lot of us, we've had our minds on preparing for the end lately, which is a good thing, right? And a lot of times we might not know where to start, right? We think we've got to do something. There's something, the Holy Spirit's working on us. We've got to get ready. We've got to get ready. And what does that mean? Sometimes that means that we're preparing food to last a little longer than usual. We're stocking up on toilet paper so that we don't have that situation we had a few years ago, right? We're dehydrating. We're packing go bags. Some of us are even packing heat, And the question of the hour is, are we going to be prepared when Jesus comes? That's the question. And a lot of us get kind of prepper minded, and it's kind of fun. I'll be honest, it's fun to be a prepper. I mean, you learn out how stuff works. You get your shotgun out and break it in a little bit, and you get your dehydrator out and you start dehydrating bananas or whatever, and you find out you're not that smart after all. Especially with bananas. But I think it's always important to keep perspective. The closer we get to the end, the more issues we'll be dealing with, the more stress we'll have towards, maybe we should do this or do that. We have to keep God in the forefront of everything that we're doing. And I think that's the message of the hour today. I'm super happy to have met Sister Monique. We met her at an adventure, believe it or not, an adventure day that we had somewhere. She didn't mean to be there. It was God, of course, working. And she can tell you more about it, but Sister Monique comes to us. She is a medical missionary, and she has done work for ACS. I know my kids know ACS and know of it, and working disaster preparedness. So she moves around with ACS when things happen. She's out there on the front lines helping people. Again, she can tell you more about that. But again, kind of one of the most qualified people that I've ever met to present the material that we have for today. So I'm excited that she'll be here to share that with us. And and again, it is a presentation, but it's also a dialogue. So don't be shy. If you have questions, please ask. There will be time and opportunity for you to engage. And since she has been down the line of everything that you see here, she has lots of information to share that might not even be in the presentation. So feel free to interrupt and ask questions, and may you be blessed.
Okay, sure.
Yes. We're streaming live right now as well, so if you want to go back, you can do that. And share the info with people who would like to hear this message as well. So with that, I'll pass it over to my sister, Monique.
All right, how is everyone? Doing good? So I'm just gonna a little bit of housekeeping out of the way. I just gave Brother Daniel a flyer. We're having a preparedness camp meeting at my property in July. So if you're interested in coming, and those of you especially who are transitioning from the city into the country, we're partnering with an organization, a Seventh-day Adventist organization called City Exodus. And from their name, you can imagine what they're doing. And so they will be coming in July, and we will be having all sorts of things like animal husbandry, learning how about wild edible plants and things like that. So also for those who want to get more interested in the medical missionary aspect of things, we'll also have some information for them. Also, Brother Adam wanted me to send him the lists that I have that kind of covers what you see here. Once I tried to put it together, if it had come together, it would have been over 30 pages for just one. So if you want the lists, I have the list, you can email me. Now, at the end of the presentation, my contact information will be there, but I also have a where you can put your information if you want to, so that I can directly send you the information. And you can also kind of determine with what we presented here, whether you're missing something in your thing. Because you might have the go bag, but you might not have the cargo bag. Okay? You might have a first aid kit, but is it this size? Okay, so my thing is that all the different lists also goes through how to prepare your family, how to teach your family. You know, if you only have 5 minutes to get whatever you can out of your house, I have a list of that to where you prioritize what comes out. It's you know, because what's my priority is not necessarily yours, right? So that's the kind of list that I have. I also have lists of if you're starting to prepare and store foods, it tells you how long certain foods will last if you store them properly. So if you have to freeze them, if you have to dry them, you know, or if you're just getting grain or something like that, it tells you how long that will be. So just know that I have those lists, and if you want those lists, then just contact me through either seeing the contact information afterwards or just giving me your information, okay? So like Mr. Daniel was saying, I have been involved with Adventist Community Services disaster response. Adventist Community Services is mostly donations. We handle the donations that people send in after a disaster, okay? But we also do crisis care as well. And so I've been involved with not only setting up a donations warehouse, but also with crisis care. I use my medical missionary training to do that. I'm also a massage therapist by profession. So, what I'm going to be telling you is what I've learned over the years. The first disaster that I officially did with ACS was Superstorm Sandy up in the New York area. And we still joke about it because we lived in Babylon while we were there, Babylon, New York. And so, you know, it was an eye-opener because you think that if a disaster happened, we're pretty prepared. And the truth is that probably you're not. Probably you're not. And so I have done the disasters here in Texas and Louisiana, Arkansas. So I've been all over, and you know, and found that people who thought that they were prepared were really not prepared. Okay, so I'm going to ask you, how many of you believe that Greenville, Texas, is facing a major, unprecedented crisis right now? Would you say? How about your country?
Yes. Yes.
How about your state?
Yes.
How about your neighborhood? Like where you live, your neighborhood. Don't you think that if your country is facing a major, unprecedented crisis, that so does your city? Wouldn't it transition, right? Okay. So how about let's take it a little farther. How many of you believe that your family is facing a major unprecedented crisis right now? If we believe prophecy, then everybody has to raise their hand, right? So I just want to make a confession, and that is that I believe in the spirit of prophecy, and I believe in the Bible. And so that's what this presentation is founded on, okay? So I don't want to offend anyone or anything like that. If you're not necessarily grounded in those things, I'm not trying to offend you, neither am I trying to convert you or anything, but I'm just letting you know that what I have seen in my work as a volunteer, but also as I sit in my living room watching the news, that this is really happening and we've been told about it, okay? Let me see if I can find it. Preparedness. Ecclesiastes 3:1 tells us, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the sun. So is there a time for disasters?
Yes.
Is there a time for emergencies?
Yes.
Do we know that there is going to be a time of trouble?
Yes.
Okay? So what does the Bible tell us? Somebody read that for me.
A prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished.
Isn't this the truth? A prudent man or a wise man foresees what's going to happen. And what does he do? He hides himself. Well, doesn't that sound cowardly? No, it actually sounds like he's preparing for the evil that is coming. He knows where he's going to hide. Okay? But the simple, it says passes on, but it's actually they ignore it. And then are punished. Okay? That's kind of like there's a flood coming. So a wise man knows, hey, I need to get my family, myself, everything I care for, up to higher ground or out of the area. But the foolish man or the simple says, we haven't had a flood here in 100 years. So I'm sitting right here. And they're punished. Their home is taken away, and at worst, lives are taken. Just because they refuse to believe that that flood would come into their home or okay? Let's see what this says. For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. So none of this should be scary in the sense that, oh my goodness, you're panicking and things like that. God did not give us the spirit of fear. He gave us power. What's that power? It's understanding what's getting ready to happen and then preparing to the best of our ability. Now, I'm going to tell you that you have to understand that if God is not in the midst of this, it doesn't matter if you dehydrate apples from now until.
That's right.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you put stuff in buckets. Okay? If God is not in the mix, then be the simple man and step back. Especially those of us who are Christians. If God is not in the mix, then don't worry about it. Okay? Here's the warning from the scriptures. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be? Can anybody tell me what's going on right here? Where this is going on right now?
Ukraine and Russia.
Ukraine and Russia. See that ye be not troubled. Oh, wait a minute. You mean we're not supposed to be panicked? It says, for all of these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Okay? For nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom, And there shall be famines, pestilences. Oopsie, sorry. Can anybody tell me what the pestilence is?
COVID-19.
COVID-19? Can anybody tell me where there's a famine going on?
Right now, the US food shortages and all our food processing plants are going up in smoke.
That's exactly it. Guess what? A lot of this stuff is happening right here in Texas. Okay? Earthquakes. Did you know that Texas is experiencing earthquakes almost on a daily? The only reason why you really don't hear about it is because it's below 2.0 on the Richter scale. That's the only reason why you don't hear about it. Okay? But it says that earthquakes in diverse places. Okay? We're going to start seeing earthquakes and even a lot of these other things, these storms going on in places that never happened. So like when I mentioned the flooding, you know, there haven't been floods in certain parts of Texas in who knows how long. But yet and still, we are now having unprecedented rainfall in certain areas that never received flooding at all. It says what? That these are the beginning of sorrows. The beginning. Satan works through the elements also to garner his harvest of unprepared souls. He has studied the secrets of the laboratories of nature. Think about it. And he uses all his power to control the elements as far as God allows. That's our promise. As far as God allows. He will bring disease and disaster. Well, COVID. Disasters. What are those disasters? Accidents and calamities by sea and by land. I have here, it's a pretty thick document, and it's only about recent disasters that are man-made as well as natural, okay? In just the last few years, just a few years before COVID, and there's quite a few, you know, we've had oil spills that have affected our ocean, things like that. We've had nuclear reactors, you know, leaking and doing all sorts of things. These are all man-made. And this is on top of tornadoes and earthquakes and tsunamis, and the list goes on, right? Does anybody know where a great conflagration is going on right now? That would be in Nevada and New Mexico. And just earlier this week, they met. Okay? And now it's a huge fire. Yes, sir.
A great what?
Great conflagrations are fires. Huge fires.
Oh.
Fires that are out of control.
Yeah.
Okay? Here's tornadoes. There was one just in Kansas. I think just a few weeks ago, I think it was during the adventurers, it was only a few days before that, that several tornadoes came through Texas, right? In our own area. Terrific hailstorms. These are happening everywhere, everywhere. In tempests and floods, cyclones, tidal waves, and earthquakes, in every place and in 1,000 forms, Satan is exercising his power. And what is it for? To garner his harvest of unprepared souls.
Wow.
Not this prepared. This prepared.
Mhm.
Let's keep it right.
Yeah.
Okay? We can do all of this and be prepared and still be lost.
Yeah.
Okay? He's doing it to get his harvest of unprepared souls. So I have this video. See if it'll. It's not.
You want me to click it over here?
Yeah, if you could. See if it'll come back up.
Is it?
If not, it disappeared. It's okay.
Okay.
So on YouTube, there is a woman who she's not Adventist, she's not Christian as far as I can tell, but she is an environmentalist or, people who are concerned about climate change and things like that. And so it's called Rage of the Earth. And I encourage you to check this out. The video that I wanted to show was only from a few days ago. And it showed hailstorms where the hail is more than 2 inches in diameter. And if you are familiar, most of your houses' roofs can barely maintain that or handle it, right? Without destruction to the roof. And then you have, there were tornadoes and things like that. Yeah, let's see if it'll work from there.
Do you need internet?
Yeah, I need dinner.
Okay. I got you.
Got it.
Oh, no, I don't.
Kathy has one.
That's why it's not.
Team effort.
Got it.
Alright, I gotta find it. Just there we go.
Okay.
Okay, I got it. Super complicated.
But anyway, this channel goes day by day, and it goes
Mhm.
all over the world, showing you what kind of disasters are happening all over the world. And it is amazing, okay? How places are being absolutely destroyed. Who never, ever experienced things like that. In one of the videos that I had watched a few weeks ago, it was snowing in Africa. There was flooding in a place where it truly was desert. There shouldn't have been any flooding going on. And it completely wiped out this town. Then there's, do I need to put on my hotspot?
Oh.
So snowing in the deserts, it was showing the camels walking around with snow on their backs and things like that. So when the spirit of prophecy in the Bible says in diverse places, it really is talking about places where things like this normally don't happen. We'll see if this connects. If it doesn't, then we'll just go ahead.
Promising.
It's interesting at work. I try to share this with some people, and not trying to make them advent,
Right.
but try to wake them up. And people do not care.
They don't.
And it's just kind of shocking sometimes because you'll talk about this stuff, like the floods in Yemen and Saudi
Mhm.
Arabia, and they do not care at all. And
It's okay. Or did we connect?
We did, but it's not.
But it's not good.
No.
We'll just move on.
Okay.
But, if you guys can, if you get on YouTube, the videos usually are no more than 15 minutes. This one was only 10 minutes long, but it covered, it covered just a few days, like, I think it was Tuesday through Thursday is what it covered. But it's called Rage of the Earth. No, we're connected.
Oh, yeah, it's gone.
Okay, 15 through the 16.
Sound. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Sorry.
there it goes.
Good. Volume. For some reason, I'm not getting volume.
Nine people were killed in Deir Ezzor city after a powerful sandstorm swept through eastern Syria. The unprecedented sandstorm provoked by strong winds left dozens of people injured, while hundreds suffered from suffocation due to the density of the storm. The storm caused substantial damage to public properties, as many houses collapsed, dozens of cars were damaged, and trees were uprooted. The same sandstorm continued its way through Iraq, forcing some schools and offices to close, while flights at Baghdad airport have also been suspended. Hundreds of people across Baghdad and southern cities went to hospitals with breathing difficulties. At least 5 people have died, and thousands were affected after heavy rain, landslides, and flooding in parts of Assam and Meghalaya states in northeastern India. 3 people died in a landslide in the Dima Hassan district, while around 25,000 people were affected, with 70 homes destroyed, and hundreds of homes damaged across several other districts in the Assam state from May 13th. Another 2 persons lost their lives in Meghalaya state, one due to a landslide, the second due to the falling tree onto a vehicle. While northeast India is struggling with floods and heavy rains, much of the rest of the country, along with neighboring Pakistan, is suffering from an unusually early heat wave, with extremely high temperatures have reached record levels in recent weeks, claiming dozens of lives and putting the lives of millions at risk. This region experiences heat waves during the summer months of May and June, but this year temperatures started rising in March and April. Precipitation has also declined, with 62% less rainfall this year, causing rivers and dams to dry up, resulting in a water crisis exacerbated by the brutal heat wave, with people living in urban slums hardest hit, spending long hours waiting for water trucks to arrive.
We like to do that.
In addition, a deadly cholera outbreak linked to contaminated drinking water has infected thousands of people in central Pakistan as the country grapples with a water crisis. Severe heat is also affecting wildlife, with birds falling out of the sky due to dehydration and exhaustion. Climate scientists say the devastating heat wave that gripped the South Asian region over the last 2 months was unprecedented, but perhaps far worse is on the horizon as climate change continues rapidly.
It's called the Mapperty air cooling.
Now remember,
An
Russia is
unseasonably
dealing
heavy
with
snowstorm
a war
with strong
as
winds
well.
covered several regions of Saginaw Island and the Comoros region, which was brought by a strong Pacific Ocean cyclone. The bad weather caused power outages in 26 settlements, affecting about 8,000 residents.
This was only on our 15th. Only on 15th.
Despite as the full moon moonlight was spotted over the province of Granada at 4:08 UTC. This event was generated by a meteoroid from a comet that hit the atmosphere at about 256,000 kilometers per hour, or 160,000 miles per hour.
Oh my goodness.
Or higher. I don't know. That's a lot. Don't focus on anymore.
we're gonna go ahead and stop it right there. But that was just one day, the 15th, okay? India ships to us their wheat. And the flooding that has been happening, the flooding has been happening since the middle of January in different parts of India. And it, I don't know if anybody has checked out just the wheat berries. The wheat berries are now $75 for a 50-pound bag. Okay. So if you've noticed that your bread prices have gone up, if you're buying bread, you know, anything that takes wheat, which is practically everything, okay, all of those things are being driven up because, first of all, we're outsourcing our farming. How many of us have gardens? Anybody have a garden going on? Okay. Again and again, the Lord has instructed that our people are to take their families away from the cities into the country where they can raise their own provisions. Again, how many of you have gardens? Even if you do container gardens right in your own backyard, you need to be growing something. Try and grow something. For in the future, we're pretty close to that future that she was talking about. In the future, the problem of buying and selling will be a very serious one. If you know prophecy, you know that in order to buy and sell, you will have to do what? You will have to take on the mark, whatever that is. What is the mark? Sanitation. Okay? We should now, when? Now, begin to heed the instructions. When did she write this?
1904.
And she said that then, and what year are we in? We should now begin to heed the instruction given us over and over again. So undoubtedly, somewhere within the writings and in the Bible, God has been telling us, get out of the cities. Okay? Where the houses are not crowded closely together, and where you will be free from the interference of humans. Okay? So getting a country property that's sitting right there on the highway and trying to grow your garden and anything else, will your enemies be able to interfere? If they see what's going on? Guess what? If they see something growing and they are hungry, guess where they're going to come? You just opened up a store that they're going to take for free. Okay? So what is a disaster? A sudden, calamitous event bringing great damage, loss, or destruction. An emergency, an unforeseen combination of circumstances or the resulting state that calls for immediate action. Still sounds like a disaster to me. Troublous times, full of trouble. We've been told that troublous times are coming. What have we been told? What does it say? Therefore, be ye also ready. You know what? I'm going to keep on reiterating. It's not this. It's this. Okay? I definitely am preparing all this. You see it. This is my stuff. But it doesn't do me any good if I'm not ready for such an hour. So I encourage you that even though you may start doing these things, make sure that you're doing your heart preparation. Go to the ant, thou sluggard. Consider her ways and be wise. You've been told. Go and consider the ant. And ants are a people, not strong, yet, what do? They prepare their meat in when?
Summer.
Okay. Why do they do it in the summer? Huh?
For the winter that's coming.
It's for the winter, but why do they do it in the summer? Because it's easy, right? The food is there. So they can go ahead, get it together and store it. Because in the winter, what happens? It's all covered up, it's dead. There's nothing available. We've got to take it from just the literal into what it means spiritually and otherwise, okay? While it is still able to be got, get it. Because when the winter comes, not only just literal, but also spiritual and otherwise, it will not be available. Okay? Tell me about Noah. What did he do to prepare?
Nope.
What was he preparing for?
Flood,
How long did he prepare?
120 years.
120 years. We have 120 years? I don't think so. Especially not with pastor paying for 12 months. How about Joseph?
7 years.
Years. Parents of Daniel and his friends. What exactly did they prepare them for? To stand for truth. Okay. Esther. Remember what Esther prepared for? Don't you remember Haman? Wanted to kill all the Jews. So she told them, what did they have to do? They had to prepare. They had to arm themselves. Right? Not just spiritually, but also physically. Okay? You can't be afraid of the weapon. For which of you, intending to build a tower, sitteth not down first and counts the cost, whether he has sufficient to finish it? In other words, don't just jump into this and say, oh, I'm going to, without planning. Okay? Again, your priority is going to be different from mine. All right? So it might have been important for me to get this thing together. This is Bob right here. This is Bob. My bug out bag. Okay? This is little Bob. And even smaller Bob. But maybe this was more important. And when I lived here in Texas, it was because I wasn't in the country. But the next thing, when we moved out into the country, it was now time for me to get my car ready. Okay? Because I live 30 minutes from a town. Okay? And so there is nothing in between me and town. What if I break down? Do you know how to change the oil in your car or where to put it? Okay. Do you know where to put the antifreeze in your car?
Yes.
Does your wife? Okay, so gentlemen, your daughters and your wives need to know just as much as your son. Okay? Ladies, your sons need to know how to cook, how to bake, how to sew.
I said amen.
My mother, I tell you, my mother was a believer in it.
Thank God you didn't say husband.
I'm saying, wives, you need to make sure that your sons know. Mothers, you need to make sure that your sons know how to cook, how to bake, how to sew, how to do some of these household things. My mother said she did not want her sons to be dependent on a woman and therefore be taken advantage of, and vice versa. She wanted to make sure that her daughters knew how to change the tire, put oil in the car. Yeah, because when that light comes on, if you're 30 minutes from town and husband is already at work, who is going to put the oil in the car? Maybe a stranger will stop and help you out. And yes, God can protect you, but not everybody is who you want your wife to encounter. Or your daughter to encounter, right? So we have to think about those things. So I have a gas can. There's a gallon of gas. It's right here. This little thing right here. There's antifreeze. Everything to take care of a car. My husband had to show me where those things were. He had me to do it. Now, I don't have the strength to pull that, thing to take the tire off. But I can definitely know if somebody is changing a tire for me, whether they're doing it right. Because if they don't do it right, I can be in a worse situation where they would damage my car, and then what am I going to do? I'm at their mercy, okay? So when I'm talking about how you plan, you have to figure out what is most important for you to do, okay? Because if you've already got, the stuff in the car, you may just have to add stuff to it, okay? If you already have your bob, then, you might just have to add a few things to it. So maybe what you need to work on is your first aid. Or maybe you need to start storing your food. Think about what's your priority, okay? So why are we supposed to consider the end? They're wise. They took their meat in the summer, preparing for the winter. As it was in the days of Noah, it's not just spiritual. Noah also prepared for the people that would come onto the ark as well as the animals. Okay? Joseph did the same. He prepared he actually only prepared for the Egyptians. But because the famine was so wide, it ended up benefiting the countries around. Okay? So when you're preparing, you may have to take into mind that somebody might end up at your door that needs some help. And if you've only done it for just your family, then, we become selfish. Okay? But we should prepare so that we can share. But you have to remember, what did God do for the widow? He kept multiplying it. Okay? Now, she didn't know why this drought was happening or anything like that, so that she could prepare. So what did she have to do? She had to trust that God would provide. So guess what? After a while, my jars of food are going to go away. My buckets of food are going to be used up. God is the one who will provide. Okay? Because I'm pretty sure that if you consider what Noah had to put on the ark, there wasn't enough for the amount of animals that were on it. And so what God performed, a miracle, and preserved that food. He was preparing for 120 years. So these are the examples that are often overlooked when we look at these stories in the Bible. When is a good time to start?
No.
Now. How does your family prepare? So we're gonna work on that. Will it take a lot of money and time? Yes. Yes and yes. Prices have gone up. So guess what? It's going to take. You might have to, tighten the belt, do whatever. You're gonna have to pray about it. What should be my priority? If you leave God out of the mix, then it's not going to work. Okay? Who should prepare?
Everyone.
Everybody. Where are you gonna put everything?
Everywhere.
We'll figure it out. What is your plan? Who are your contacts? Where are your important documents? What if you are forced to shelter at home? Do you have enough provision? If your children go to school, do they have what it takes to survive if they are forced to stay at school without you? Do they know what to do? Do they know who to contact? Do they actually know your phone number? Do they know anybody else's phone number? Okay? Work. Do you have what you need at your job if you go to a job? Do you have what you need if you're forced to stay in your car? I don't know if you guys remember, but when Hurricane Katrina and everybody was coming up I-45, a lot of people lost their lives on that highway. They were forced to stay in their car. It was hot. All sorts of things were going on. People were running out of gas. Nobody had food. Now that was just the heat. Think about if it was winter. Well, the first couple of years that I was here, there was a huge ice storm and people were stuck out on the highway next to my house. Stuck in their cars. Did they have food? Did they have anything to keep them warm? A lot of people suffer. And then if you have pets, you need to take that into consideration, okay? So who are your contacts? You need to have somebody outside of your disaster or emergency area. During a disaster, well, let's take 9/11. 9/11, New York was completely shut down. You could not call out, you could not leave, nothing. My best friend was a doctor in one of the hospitals. And I'm sitting in front of my television watching this 9/11 thing unfold. And suddenly I feel that I need to call her. Like, I can't call her. They're not letting people, you can't call in. Her family is freaking out. She's freaking out because they can't communicate. She actually lived in New Jersey. So what affects New York actually affected New Jersey. The Lord kept on saying, call her. So I did. And I'm thankful that I did, because I was the only one who was able to communicate with her and then communicate with her family. Okay? Often what happens is that you're not able to call out if the disaster is severe enough. If the phone towers are destroyed, if they're telling you do not get on your phone, and tie up the lines, then you can't use your phone. However, if somebody calls in, that's different, okay? But if you're still able to, you need to have somebody outside of your disaster area who you can contact, so that if you're over here and she's over there with the kids, you can call and say, Uncle John, I'm fine. They're telling me that I have to shelter right here. If my wife calls you, tell her where I am, etc., and go to our assigned places. It may be that if their house is fine, you're just gonna shelter in place, okay? So what I'm saying is, Make sure that you have people that your children can contact outside of the disaster area. Does everyone in your household know who will be the contact person? They need to have that information. Is there a safe place that everyone knows to go to meet? Okay. If your house is destroyed, well, I mean, when the firemen come to the school, they say, okay, you know, if your house is burning and stuff like that, you need to talk to your family about meeting at the mailbox or meeting at the neighbors. So if you're gonna do that for a fire in your house, why can't you do it also for a disaster? Okay, figure out where everybody will head so that you will know when you get there, is anyone missing? Okay, if somebody's missing, let's call Uncle John over in the next state or wherever he lives and find out if they're okay or if they've contacted him. Okay, this reduces the stress, not only on yourselves, but also on local authorities. Because they're trying to take care of the emergency, but everybody wants to know where their family is and whether they have contacted, things like that. So try and do what you can do to alleviate the stress that will happen. Do you know where your important documents are? Are they safe? You know, a fire safe is fine, but maybe you need to have some of this information with a family member. I'm telling you, never leave your home without your ID. It puts stress upon the authorities as well as your family if anything happens to you and you're unable to communicate. Okay? So make sure that you have your information. And I don't have it in here, I think it might be in my bag, but I put my information on a flash drive. And it's password protected. Okay? My grandson carries around an old phone that has all the contact information in it. Special instructions and things like that. It's not connected, you know. It's not a operating phone. He can't make any phone calls. He can call 911. Because all the cell phones are supposed to be able to do that, whether you have phone service or not. But, you know, so think about that in regards to, you know, having that for the child. Otherwise, put it on a card or something like that and make sure that it's in your child's go bag, in his bottle. Have your insurance information, if you have any prescriptions, you know, and any other documents that are unique to your family. So where will you keep it? USB drive, fireproof safe, safe location, not at your home. Don't put it at the bank. Do not put it at the bank. You will not be able to get it. One of the first things that they shut down is the bank. Because people will run on the bank, trying to get their money, trying to get whatever. And it's not, I'm just telling you, it's not safe at a bank. Do a password protected storage device, you know, in regards to your children. Who is in the chain of authority for your children? Your child is over at the school or something like that, and your husband is over here and you're over there. Who can come and pick up your child from school? Especially if you're unable to, you know. Traffic is not going to allow you to get there in time or anything like that. Who can pick up your child? You need to make sure that your school knows. If you're homeschooling, that's totally different, of course, but not everybody homeschools, okay? So how do we shelter in place in our home, work, school, or car? We're gonna start off with home. Food, water, and supplies for each person. How many of you know what the LDS church is? Latter-day Saints. Do you know what is recommended for membership?
1 year of food in your house.
There you go.
Wow.
1 year.
I got that much candle soup.
But you know what? You're gonna get tired. The LDS church, just like he said, has to have 1 year supply for each person of the household.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That's recommended. It's recommended. Okay? So let's see. 400 pounds for one adult.
You're okay, you're okay.
For one adult, 400 pounds of grain. Where are you gonna put that?
My tiny home.
Legumes, 60 pounds. Powdered milk, 16 pounds. Cooking oil, at least 10 quarts. Sugar or honey, 60 pounds. Salt, 8 pounds. Water, at least 14 gallons. That's just for one adult, and that's only the basics. We're not talking about fruits, vegetables, the whole 9 yards, okay? We're talking for one adult, just the basics. 400 pounds. Okay? Another person did some information, and they were trying to help them to, do it in 3-month increments. $3,000. And that was from about 5 years ago.
Yeah, easy.
So is this going to be money consuming?
Yes.
And does it have to be that money consuming?
No.
Okay, you all buy food at whatever time increments that you guys do it, right? So what does it hurt to buy an extra can of this or an extra bag of that and maybe dehydrate? Story. You can build your pantry by just buying a little extra. Okay? And then if you're putting food into your go bag, okay, what you can do with your leftovers is dehydrate it and put it in something like this. Okay? Between the 3 bags that I have enough in these 3 bags, the same size, for a week. For a week. So you need to plan how you're going to have those things, okay? Food and water for each person and pet for 3 to 7 days. This is the FEMA recommendation. And that means that when they say 3 days, that's their minimum. And that just means that if the disaster is big enough, they probably won't get to you in 72 hours. So you need to be able to survive on your own for 72 hours. That's 3 days. Okay? And if it's really bad enough, like what happened in Louisiana, you're talking more than 7 days. Okay? Dedicate a room, a closet, under the bed. Find a space to store your supplies. Whenever possible, buy extra to be able to share or for periods longer than 7 days. Learn to preserve food by canning, freezing, and dehydrating. Have at minimum a basic first aid kit. Okay? Teach your kids basic first aid, CPR. Okay? Check on perishable items and rotate your food pantry, especially your water. Okay? You need to have your sturdy boots or shoes in your car, in your house, wherever you are. When a building is destroyed and you're in it, what are you going to be stepping on? Glass, nails, wood, anything. Okay? So if you're in your little sandals, cute little sandals, you know, your little dress shoes at work or whatever, are those things going to be able to get you out without destroying your feet? Because your feet are what's going to get you out. If you don't take care of your feet, you're gonna have to crawl out. You might be able to do that, but you're not gonna get far, right? At home, check on your ceilings and walls. If you have a chimney, make sure it's not leaking. Check out your roof, you know, gas and oil lines. How many of you ladies know how to turn off your gas if you have a gas line? Or know how to turn off the electrical box in the house? Good. Okay? Do you know where the water line that comes into the house, where you're able to turn that off? Good job. I wanted to see a young person raise their hand. Okay? So if you don't know about these things, you need to go ahead and teach yourself. There's information. YouTube is the greatest thing right now. Check it out. But you also want to check those things, especially after a disaster. Okay? Because if you're not careful, the little bitty hole in your roof will drain into and destroy your ceilings and walls. And then you're talking about mold and all sorts of things if it doesn't dry out properly. Okay? Do you know what is going on in your neighborhood or region? Are you listening to know what is going on? You know, during the first parts of COVID, just, you know, because COVID and that Black Lives Matter thing was going on kind of at the same time. They kind of overlap each other. And I thought here in little Garland, Texas, everything was going to be okay. But I heard that there was a riot going on in downtown Garland. That surprised me. I expected it to be in Dallas, for sure, but not in downtown Garland. So if it can happen in Garland, it can happen in Greenville. What is your water supply? Is your water supply safe? Do you get it from a well or do you get it from the city? Are you going to be able to make your water safe to drink? Because if something gets into the water and contaminates it, you know, what are you going to do? Make sure that after a disaster, you check your family for safety and injuries, and check on your neighbors as you're able to. Okay? Because when you come together as a community, you can protect yourselves better. Again, what is happening in your neighborhood? It is time to use your portable radio. Let's see if I keep on turning on my radio here. Here. I usually know where it is. Okay.
Well, perfect timing.
Must be a thunderstorm or Amber Alert.
Okay. So this is a radio that I can plug in to charge, but also I can give it to my grandson when he's driving me nuts.
Crank it. Yeah.
Crank it. Don't stop until I tell you. Okay? But it specifically has a weather channel where that's all it reports. So depending on your location, it reports that. It also has a flashlight on it. Okay? So you need to have your portable radio Make sure that it's not dependent just on electricity and battery, okay? Make sure that you can do some manual stuff. Give it to your children to keep them busy. I do that. Then, of course, remember to pray, because it's God who's gonna get you through it. Thank Him for your safety. Ask for continuance, but stay alert to what is happening in your area. Create a defendable area in your home. Okay? Think about that. You know, is there a safe room that you can create where if you're home alone or the family, and I'm not just talking about defendable in regards to against rioting or something like that, but can it be the safest place in your home depending on what disaster you're facing? Okay? Consider weapons and what kind of weapons you're going to use. My son is trying to teach me how to shoot a gun. I am very resistant to it. However, you know, I do understand that that may be something I'll have to eventually do. I prefer knives. Just saying. Medication and health. Do you or others in your family depend on regular medication? Okay. My advice is to use God's prescription and get rid of the medication that you're getting from hospitals and doctors. Arrange to always have several days worth of medication on hand. Consider working with your doctor to have a couple of weeks of supply on hand. That's sometimes very difficult to do, but there are some doctors that will give you an emergency supply if necessary. Any special needs such as wheelchairs, breathing machines, etc., should be considered in the plan. Okay, so if you have a breathing machine, usually those are electric, right?
Yeah.
So you may have to consider getting a solar generator. You know, these are the panels, and I take this camping with me every time I go out with my adventurers and pathfinders to keep my my electrical cooler going. But you know, I've made it available to somebody who had a breathing machine, and it was able to help them with that crisis. Okay, so don't forget about your contact lenses, glasses, hearing aid. Again, above all, try to reduce the dependence on medication and use the true remedies. And then don't forget pets. Water. Do you have potable water in storage? Can you readily obtain more? How do you properly store water? Okay. How can you make more potable water? Using your best judgment and your emergency radio, determine the safety of your water supply again. Do you get your water from your public utility or from your own well? And the type of disaster will influence the risk to your water that comes through your pipes. So you need at least 3 gallons of potable water per day per person, and at least 1 gallon per pet. So, if you have 5 people in the home, and you need water for 6 days, how much water do you need?
9.
Do you know?
90 gallons.
90 gallons. Okay? It's a lot of water. And we're talking, you know, and the LDS church requires that, you know, you have at least that and, you know, and we're only talking 6 days. Water can be safely stored for up to 6 months. So what do you do with it after 6 months? Do you throw it away?
No.
Plants.
You can water your
For your
plants, your
bathroom.
garden. You can use it to bathe. Okay, flush the toilet. Don't get rid of the water just because 6 months is up. Okay? Storage can include both small bottles as well as all the way up to your 5-gallon jugs. Okay? Accumulate during peacetime. That means do it while you're able. Okay? Now, I'll tell you, working with ACS, water is the first thing that is donated. However, if you think about it, if the whole country is being affected by one disaster or another, do you think that a donation of water is gonna come? Especially from a drought-stricken place? Yep. Even from a flooding place, you're not gonna get any water. Okay, because the water will be compromised at that time. Cycle or rotate your inventory. Try not to store water longer than 6 months, but do it in a cool or dry place. Do not store water in containers that have stored other items other than water. Okay? So don't rinse out the milk jug or whatever, because the water will end up being contaminated. You cannot get the bacteria out of that jug. And even if you use bleach, do you want to drink it? You're only going to use bleach to purify your water if you are desperate, okay? And there are still ratios that you need to use in order for you to be able to drink it, okay? Do not store in metallic containers. Why? Dust, okay? It will contaminate it. Unless it's stainless steel, you're not gonna wanna store your water in anything else. Always store water in securely closed containers. Some people store their water in these buckets, okay? They show you on the bucket that kids can fall into it. So you have to be careful of these things and make sure that if you're going to use something like a bucket to store your water, that you're keeping it safe for small children and animals, pets. Do not place storage containers on concrete floors, because the chemicals in the concrete will leach into the bottles. Okay? If you need to purify water, be extremely careful. Okay? Boiling may be the safest method, but you still want to strain it. Use a commercially made filter system, not your typical household one. Okay, so the little filters that they've got in our home only deal with a certain amount. But if your water is truly contaminated, it can only flush through a certain amount. Okay? Pure bleach, not those air fresh, mountain fresh bleaches. You need to use just pure bleach if you have to purify your water. You can get your water from other places, such as your hot water tank and your toilet tank, not the bowl, the tank, okay? And then you can also do closed rain barrels. I have heard that it's illegal in some places to have rain barrels to catch the rain, but you know, if you're in that country place where your enemies cannot interfere, guess what? Nobody's gonna know. Besides, rain is free. Your bath water, bathing is important, not only to be clean, but to refresh you mentally. We always feel better after a good bath or shower, so you want to make sure that, you know, that water that may have been sitting around for 6 months, you can use that to clean yourself up, right? Potable water, portable water heaters make bathing even more comfortable, or even your solar showers, which I think I have here. Yeah. These things work wonderfully. Some people have them for their Pathfinder camporees, or when they take their clubs out, the little solar shower. We had to have them when I was growing up. Yeah. We also had to learn how to change a 5-gallon bucket into a shower by putting the little hole and, you know, the faucet, the whole 9 yards. So I don't know how to do it anymore, but I am getting ready to learn again. Okay? If your potable water is limited, consider just a sponge bath, like using, you know, the baby wipes. In the hospital, when you can't take a bath or anything like that, they have these huge wipes that the nurse will come and help you, or you can use to clean yourself if you want to. Bath water, don't just let it go down the drain. Now you use that 5-gallon bucket or something like that and you pour it down the toilet. Right? Because when the electricity is affected, so is your toilet. Okay? In a disaster situation, it may seem difficult to keep your hands clean. And it is. Especially when working around potable water and food, you need to keep your hands clean. So make sure you use soap and water if available. Use hand sanitizer and towelettes or baby wipes if necessary. And disposable gloves can help. So when somebody is changing, when a nurse or whoever is changing a patient in the hospital, do they do it with their bare hands?
No.
No, they use gloves. You know what? You can buy these gloves at Walmart for just a few dollars. Okay? And in a situation where you're having issues with your water, you know, having plenty of water and things like that, and not being able to keep your hands as clean as you want to, pulling out a disposable glove, putting it on, and using it not only to clean your children, but yourself, will help you to reduce the amount of disease and germs that could be transferred from person to person. Because like my husband, who works in the medical field, he says the hand sanitizer kills the germ, but it doesn't clean your hands. And it's true. You know, after I've used the hand sanitizer, after I pump gas and, you know, do all my shopping, I come home and I wash my hands and all the filth that I've encountered is coming off of my hands. So even though I've been using hand sanitizer throughout the whole time, my hands are still dirty. Okay? While shelter should always be your first thought, food and water should soon follow. So you need to make sure that those things are there. There are several aspects of food to keep in mind, which is nutrition, quick energy, convenience, such as snacking or actually cooking. The sources, what do you have on hand versus where can you get some more? So we've got Texas Baptist men have a portable kitchen, and during a disaster, they cook for you. I don't know, there's another one called Mercy Chefs, okay? Well, I can tell you that the Texas Baptist men are all about their meat and potatoes, okay? You're gonna get meat and potatoes with your Texas Baptist men. Mercy Chefs will fix different foods, and if you tell them that you're vegetarian, they will fix a vegetarian meal. Okay? So, but the issue is that many times, you know, our churches can provide vegetarian meals during a disaster for not only Adventists. We can't think that only Adventists are the ones who are vegetarian. You know, there are Buddhists in your community.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people who are going plant-based, whether they're doing it out of religious or just health-wise. And so it's very difficult. That was one of my issues when I was responding to a disaster. I would take some of my food, but if I'm there for a month, my Bob is only giving me a week's worth of food, right? So I need food after that. And so I was always thankful when Mercy Chefs were there, because I was able to actually eat food that gave me the energy and stamina that I needed. Whereas I could only pick and choose out of what Texas Baptist men fixed for me. Even if you must depend on emergency food such as MREs, does anybody know what MRE stands for?
Meals ready to eat.
Meals ready to eat. For a short time, nutrition is important. I do not like MREs. I do not. And I have one block, I have a block right here of an MRE.
That what military use?
Just add one.
That's what the military uses when they are,
6,000 calories in one meal.
way in there.
And
Well,
they're not used to being.
an MRE should be able to last you,
You guys drink
if
a lot of
you
water.
use it right, a whole day. It's not just one meal, it's
Right.
the meal for the entire day. That's like 6,000 calories.
It's got a
Yeah.
huge
Yeah.
amount.
I'm on it.
Single one of those things, so they're not to be taken lightly.
Right. So you have MREs that you can go into Walmart, into the camping section, and they have the little, different little dehydrated packaged stuff. And then you have, because all you have to do is add water. And then there are others where they already come with their heating unit and everything like that. You just break it,
Pour a
or,
little bit of water into it. and
Yeah.
It gets
then
real
it,
nice and
yeah.
hot. and
But understand that those things are full of chemicals. Okay? And many times, well, let me just say that every time that I've gone, I have not found a vegetarian meal yet. Okay? So I make my own. All right? So disaster situations always burn a lot of energy, not only just physical, but also the nervous and mental energy that you have to expend in order to get through it. And nutritional snack foods are good in the short term, okay? So if I'm walking along, trying to get out of the disaster area, pulling out an energy bar and eating it until I get to my destination, it's fine. But when I get to my destination, am I gonna wanna continue eating that bar? No, I think I'm gonna get sick of it pretty quickly. So make sure that you have sufficient food. So food is available in a variety of forms, of course. We have our dried, we have our just add waters, we have our dry foods like your pastas and rice. The dried up there means dehydrated, sorry. Then you have your canned, your fresh, and then they have, they say that dairy is another one, but yeah. If you don't use dairy, then no problem. So you can look at this and see that some of the stuff is convenient in the way that it's packaged and whether it can last a while in your pantry or not. Of course, you know that you're fresh and frozen. Your frozen is dependent on whether your freezer is sufficient and whether your freezer is going to be able to last without any electricity. So you might want to make sure you have a generator. Okay? Make sure the food prep area is clean. Use a portable camp stove if you don't have any electricity. Do you have a camp stove in your emergency supplies? Make sure that you have the little propane canisters and things like that. If no electric or gas, but you have a generator, you may be able to power some portable cooking devices. But you still have to have gas for some of these generators. Now I understand that there are dual fuel generators, and they take propane and gas. So you can switch between and, but they're not cheap.
No.
They're about, the last that I looked, it was on sale for $1,200. On sale. Okay? If you have a fireplace or a wood stove, use a Dutch oven or fire-safe pots and pans. One of the things that we looked for when we were moving into the country, we needed to have a wood stove. We didn't want a fireplace, we wanted a wood stove. So that we would be able to cook on top of it while it was keeping it. And this past winter, we heated our home only with the wood stove. We have electric, we have the central heating and air conditioning, but we wanted to see how much wood it would take to get through a winter and things like that. So now we're doing that plan of how much wood we need to cut down on our property and get it to the point where we can burn it. Be sure to use your charcoal grills if you're going to use that to cook outside because of the chemicals that are in the charcoal. Propane stoves require some major ventilation, so, some of this stuff you may have to do outside, or else in a, well-ventilated area like your garage or something like that. Okay? Sterno, is really just to keep your food warm, not really to cook with. And never use charcoal in your fireplace because of the chemicals and stuff. Because of the chemicals that are in the charcoal, you can't take the ash and put it on your garden. It will, yeah. You don't want to do that. So here are some supply places that we use, to get some of our things. So Azure Standard, I don't know if anybody's heard of that. They are great with organic foods. They have grains, you can buy in bulk. They have garden seeds and starting plants and things like that. Be Prepared has your ready-made buckets. That means that you can go online there and they have a bucket that has several meals in it. Those things are expensive. You should do it yourself. Ready.gov just gives you information on how to prepare for a disaster for your business, your families, wherever. Pinterest has an endless list for disaster preparedness and everything like that. And of course, Walmart.com has your supplies, camping supplies. Costco and Sam's Club, they will ship to your door. Since you guys live pretty close, you guys live pretty close to a Costco. Costco will ship your perishables within 2 hours and your other stuff within 2 days. Okay? Costco delivers all my stuff in 2 days, and I'm out in the country, so I can't get the perishables, but I do get the non-perishables. Sam's Club doesn't have the 2-day thing. They kind of ship it when they feel like it, but they still ship it. Okay? And then My Patriot Supply also has food buckets and also focuses on emergency supplies. So in emergency situations, always give special attention to efficiency. Make sure that what you're preparing can have more than one use. Okay? Conserve your fuels by doing multiple tasks on the same device. So if you're cooking the meal, but you also have to heat up water for washing the dishes, then do that at the same time so that you're not turning it off and on, turning it off and on. Okay? Some lanterns can be used for low heat. Heat your water while you're cooking. I just said that. Efficiency should also be applied in the planning stage. Have supplies on hand, like your personal care kit. Have food in extra quantity and maintain your emergency equipment. If you don't use it or check it out or anything like that, then it will fail you if you're not sure if there's a weakness in it. So if you never pull out that knife to see if it's really still sharp and things like that, but it's been sitting in your bob for 2 or 3 years, it's probably going to fail when you need for it to actually work. Why? You still encounter moisture. You still encounter a whole lot of things, and it can get dull. So pull it out, see if it's still sufficient for what you need it for. What your idea was for it 2 or 3 years ago may have changed. So will that knife now work in that situation? Because things may have changed, and now you might need a bigger knife, or you might need something that can do more. Okay? Have your clothes and linen at the ready. Sanitation. Sanitation is required to minimize health risk. Okay? And to keep us as comfortable as possible. All waste must be cared for in a manner appropriate to the type of waste. So paper waste can always be burned. Okay? Food waste must be disposed of so that it does not attract bugs and animals. Okay, so that might require burying it or some such thing. Minimize food waste by careful portioning. Bury food waste or use containers with with tight lids. Pet waste, okay? Pet waste is always a problem. The animals must be trained to be away from people, okay? In only the past few years has the Red Cross allowed you to bring your pets to you, with you, when you have to shelter in one of their shelters, okay? It used to be that you had to leave them behind. Now you're able to take them. But if you train your animal to use the bathroom away from people, then it's easier for you, okay? But make sure that you have the ability to collect their waste if necessary, so that it is not affecting people. Pet waste is a health hazard to people, especially when there's a lot of people in one area, okay? Human waste must be kept away from the normal living area and must be buried or contained in a sanitary manner, and must be kept away from food and water sources. Flammable waste, such as your petroleum-based things, your gases and things like that, should not be buried directly or poured on the ground. It should be stored in metal containers, or you can use dirt or other absorbent material to stabilize it, and stabilize the fuel from spilling. So if you use that oil and things like that, and it's really no good for anything else, then I would put dirt and whatever else in there, so that it doesn't just spill out onto the ground and seep into the ground and thereby affect your ground. Dead body storage and disposal. It's not something that we always want to think about. But in the end times, don't you think that that's probably what we're going to be? It's not something we like to discuss. But animals can usually be buried away from human areas and water and food sources. Storage and disposal of human bodies, however, is tightly governed. You cannot just go and bury grandma or anybody else, okay, if they die on your property. You have to let somebody know, okay? It is best to notify government authorities and obtain guidance and assistance from them, okay? I really struggled about putting this in the presentation, because one thing that is very important is that when you're dealing with a disaster, like I said, you can't just go and bury that body in the backyard or wherever. You have to let the authorities know that somebody died on the property. Then if they instruct you to go ahead and bury it, that's when you can go ahead and do that. But you can't do it until they tell you to. So you might have to store that dead body. It is very important that we understand the state of the dead, number one. Number two is we need to know how to deal with it if it should happen, okay? Because it may not be a family member per se. It could be that, we're going to check on the neighbor and we find out that the neighbor has passed away. Okay. What if you have to keep a family member who has passed away in your home until the authorities come and pick them up? Are you comfortable staying in your house with them there? No? If you understand that they're asleep until Jesus comes, this is not going to be a problem. Right? All right, off the heavy. Doing laundry in a disaster situation may not be with modern equipment. So do you know how to do the old washboard?
Yes.
Oh, when my grandmother made me do that, I really didn't love her at that point. But, I'm thankful that she taught me. Because I have a washboard, and I can wash my clothes. Do you know how to wash clothes without a washboard? And have you washed clothes with hand soap? Learn those things. Remember, animals and people often do not mix well. Although public shelters now allow pets, dogs and cats should be kept in a crate. So if your cat, your dog is not used to that, you need to get them used to it if you're going to have to end up staying in a public shelter. You need to also have adequate food and water for your pet and make sure that your vaccines for them are up to date. If the vaccines are not up to date, you cannot bring them. Cannot bring them. Farm animals, for those who live out in the country, they present a special problem, and you should have a special plan for them, because if they're forcing you to leave, but you have to leave your animals, there are agricultural responders who will come in and either rescue your animal or will feed them for you. But again, you have to have adequate food and water if they're just gonna come in and feed your animals, okay? Again, you also have to have their vaccines up to date. Pathfinders, every one of us should be a pathfinder, learn your knots. Okay? Learn your knots. Always have some sturdy rope in your personal and family evacuation kits. I think mine is somewhere. Oh, it's in the bag over there. But make sure that you have your rope, okay? And then know how to read a map. You know, the one that you have to unfold, you know, stick it there on the dashboard and say, where are we? Okay, don't want to depend on your GPS or your Google Maps or anything like that. Okay, know how to read them. Consider yourself to be directionally challenged so you won't get lost. Okay, don't say, oh, I know, you turn right here, and when a disaster comes, it totally changed the topography of the area. Okay, so what you thought was right there, and you usually used it as, you know, oh, I have to turn here, or I continue a little. If that is destroyed or taken away, you know, and you're depending on that, this is why I say make yourself directionally challenged. Also make sure that you know how to get to your home or any other place by more than one way. Okay? Because if you only go to your house one way, during the time of trouble, people are going to be paying attention to your habits. Okay? Additional supplies would be a fire extinguisher, tools, camp equipment, extra blankets and air mattresses. I try and keep those things on hand so that if anybody has to crash on my floor, they're able to do that. Gas and oil for your car and car maintenance, you need to keep that up. Generators, solar battery, you know, all those things. Tarp, masks. Make sure you have your kitchen gloves, your leather work gloves, a hatchet or an axe to ensure escape if you're trapped, but also to chop firewood. Extra shoelaces for your, you know, that is something that can be used for many different things, but after a while, they will, your boots straps will, your bootlaces will go away. Does anybody know what an emergency blanket is? Can somebody describe that for me? What an emergency blanket is? The aluminum blanket. Yes, sir.
I was fixing to ask which one.
So there are several, aren't there? There's one called a bivvy. And then there's also the aluminum one that you were talking about. There are several kinds, but the important thing is have what you need, okay? The whistle. Okay, on my keychain, I have tool. Looks like a snowflake, but it actually has the Phillips and the flathead and everything like that. I also have a flashlight and it's solar. I also have a weapon. And this is a marine whistle. This marine whistle, what it means by marine, it's able to be heard over several miles across water. But it also works very well even on land. It's very high pitched. I used to blow it for people, but I don't do it anymore because it really does a job on the ears. Okay? So now for your work, school, and car. So we went through everything for the home. And some of those things can be applied to your emergency supply kit for your work, your school, or your car. Okay? Bob, this Bob stays actually in my house. Okay? Because of the fact that I live on 40 acres now, and on the other side of me is government property. So it's easier for me to just grab this Bob and go. Okay? This Bob stays in my car. Okay? It has shelter, it has food, it has the ability to cook food. I can make sure that my water is safe if I have to, and different things like that. My little Bob goes with small Bob, just because it's a fanny pack, and I'm able to put extra things in there. This one mostly has certain weapon in it and stuff like that, and also a solar charger for my phone. Okay, so you want a full kit that stays in your home, okay? And then you want another one that stays in your car. But you also, if your children go to school or you're at work, you want something at the job, okay? Or any other place that you spend a lot of time in, okay? So, and this is what we call the go bag or bob. Packs that have survival supplies for when the home is compromised or uninhabitable. And that includes work, school, and the car. And you need to walk, drive, or cycle away from your home, okay? If you can get a bike, you know what the panniers are? They're the bike packs, okay? And all you have to do is get a saddle for the panniers, and you can pack a bob into one of those as well. And that way you can get on your bike, make sure, of course, you have your extra stuff for your bike to keep it going, and that way you can ride out of there if necessary, okay? Also make sure that each member of the household has something, including your pets, okay?
Want to do a 5-minute break?
Do we want to do a 5-minute break, or do you want to keep going? Do a 5-minute break? Okay, let's take a 5-minute break and get some water, walk around, use the bathroom. And we'll get started again.
Oh, man.
Learn something?
Yeah. Sitting there. Go stretch.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, that's
All right, while we're stretching, how many of you have been enjoying this so far? Amen, amen. Our sister has joined us here from far, far away. And so today, after the program is over, we will be collecting a love offering. So this was all volunteered of her time and her service. So I just wanted to put that on your minds and hearts. So please give freely, but that'll come later after we finish up.
have it here, and you can see. Yeah, so, yeah, I have the PDF that I can email it and stuff like that. So, if you Now, I didn't do the brands only because, the brands sometimes, unless you go to Amazon, and you're getting this exact same thing. But, I got this,
How long does this last?
quite a while. I've been, charging things on it, for about a week. But the reason why I don't do brands is because what works for me. Yeah, it's just me, going or whatever. So this is fine. But if you're trying to have something for your family. This is, actually, solar.
That was the one thing she had that I do not have, that I had no idea.
I've done everything else.
Oh, yeah. I can't put on off or any of those things now. I sometimes make my own, but, my skin is very sensitive, so I have.
Righteously?
And so I found this works better.
I hope not.
Oh, okay.
I'm relieved.
Yeah, and you just use something like this little gas.
Oh, you're yeah, I am.
You can open up the bucket, I didn't seal it or anything like that, but, this particular bucket just has like what I'm putting, first aid and stuff like that. So, yeah.
The sun. So it is solar light?
Yes. So you lay that out in the sun, after you filled it, of course, and then, by the afternoon, evening, or depending on how hot the day is.
Is that right there, the solar panel?
Take a shower when it's sunny out.
The solar panel is right here.
Solar panel, generator.
Yes. Yes, this I put, the solar panel into here.
So how much did that cost?
This, I think it was about $80.
Just maybe sit up there and just
Just
instrumental.
Yeah, well, because, now, because of COVID and everything like that, everybody is actually buying these things. Yeah, I'm gonna talk about, this in just a little bit. But these are fruit roll-ups that I made. The apple chips, he was talking about the apple chips. I don't know what he did, but yeah.
So how does this,
Love it.
how exactly does this work?
Oh, okay. So you have to turn it to this thing right here, and then there's the little window. And you have to see in the little red dot. It'll start,
Is it like battery
it
powered?
doesn't have a scent, so you're not gonna smell it. But no, it's gas.
Oh, it's gas.
Wait, so is that what keeps off the mosquitoes?
From what I understand. Yeah, it's about 20 feet. And for this, when it's hanging off of your backpack or something like that, you're protected as you walk along. Oh, yeah, and I have to look for the stuff that has no scent. We're getting ready to test this.
So it keeps off the mosquitoes?
Yeah.
I
don't
know pretty much
It seems like he proposed, but he
Actually, study churches, study churches.
So that's a pickup radio?
This is the solar panel generator. So this black thing right here, pick that up.
So do you have like lists of like what you have in here, what you have in there, or what do you put in your apartment?
So usually when you crank the radio out, how long does it last?
Quite a while. I cranked that a while ago, several months ago actually. So this is the panel, and this panel came with the generator, so it wasn't separate. I didn't have to buy it separate. Some of them we do have to buy separate.
Yeah, like the ones I have, you have to buy separate. Then you have to buy the regulator, and then you get the batteries, and then you get the converter.
Yeah,
And those are all different
I
prices.
personally got this off of Amazon. So it comes with, I'm able to charge this
This is, oh, that's big.
with electricity.
I've got a car.
Yeah, just look for solar generators, solar panels,
Take it out.
things like that. You know, but you say solar generator. And yeah, I can
It's supposed
plug
to
my
rain today,
computer in.
but-
But I'm computer now because it's a 30-inch prompt. And of course the two prompts. And then all my
Yeah, that's the one. Is it? Well, that's where the L3 and all them have their current sticker. I've never played that before.
It's all hilly and trees.
Is it-
Wait for me.
I knew a while ago.
You gotta live by four pins.
Yeah, I was on the way home.
I got
You go play golf?
Yes,
Woodville was 45 minutes from us. though.
yes.
Is it that far? I thought it was in between here and Wolf City.
Water close to Wolf City, but from our house,
Oh, yeah, our house. I was
Yes.
thinking,
not
I
here.
have,
It's
those are in
like 10 minutes from here.
yeah.
You'd like, okay, take my water, use it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, you
fine.
can do lake
Bring
water
burned
and stuff
up.
like that, it will.
There's a lot of stuff, even on my plants, I've noticed they're starting to be green and stuff, and like the very end of the leaves are freaking burning, like on all of them, so.
That's why I
There's a
tell
lot of
people,
solar flares,
boil it,
there's some of the stuff that should not cover, like the grand solar minimum that I've told you about, maybe the whole 2000 changes. And that the sun's rays or frequencies are
So if
changing
you
slightly.
get a large
Causing things to burn more and stuff like
water
that. So like the radiation, like let's say it's
You have to
flowing
look
at a
for
certain
water
hertz
source
and rate
like
for a
lake or
while, it's
something like
changed. It's still
Or even when
flowing,
you're out camping.
but like it's more intense than it used to be and stuff. So whenever they have these solar flares, it burns stuff.
It makes sense. We had a neighbor next door, he mowed the front patch, we shared the, I heard. We got the dirt. Why did you dig the horse in the house? He changed it. They use this first time. I said he used only ours.
Oh wow.
So I was gonna talk to him. He was trying to say, oh, my God.
Yeah.
I'll leave it. Wages up
Yeah. That's what you usually want to do. You don't want to go down to where it turns white.
to the dirt.
Not paying attention.
He just homework, he should have.
So
First time.
this is,
Yeah.
what I do.
So,
I'm out camping and
I don't know. I'm gonna go stay probably another 30 minutes here to go let the dogs out and stuff. I've been here since 10 o'clock. Well, by the time I get home, it'll be almost dinner time. So.
I didn't find it right on here. You can find them all the time in the camping section. They have different brands. They have different brands.
It's Clorox,
I've got most of the stuff at home. So.
Basically, that's what it is.
Even the military stuff.
And I don't want to do
Yours
what
are
you-
very-
It has a, it has a.
There's a spiritual aspect you gotta kind of combine.
And the original was it's not the murder, it's about. You know, he said, well, what's somebody's attacking you? I said, what's that? Hey, that's different.
Yeah, it's just not the murder.
Yes, it doesn't say.
So murder is taking an innocent life.
Yes.
If you're not innocent, you have the right to defend yourself.
That's what I was telling him.
Everything in that water makes
If someone came in there with a gun, and like, oh, thou shalt not kill, and we allowed them to kill everybody, we're just as guilty. Or do we stop them? So that's the whole thing.
That's what I was explaining.
Yeah. But it's taking of innocent
Do I have?
abortion, straight up murder. A lot of some of the Bible verses say thou shalt not kill. Well, when you use soap, you kill bacteria. You blow your nose, there's all kinds of stuff. When you eat meat, you feel, you make it take somebody else to do it. So,
I thought Miss Shirley came in.
surely she didn't.
Yeah. This will wrap around, should be able to
They
wrap
call the
around
emergency
6
blankets and
foot
stuff
tall.
like that. You can hold up,
So
night vision doesn't see you.
this one
Thermal, might be
because
thermal.
it's technically comes with this little,
So if someone's coming at you with thermal, you put it
I
on.
really want to
Run
use
away.
it to wrap
Don't see
around
your body
you
heat.
instead of as a shelter. As a separate shelter. It's called an emergency blanket, and that's what it's called when you're looking at it. So I get it from Walmart.
Costs a lot of money.
No, this is.
Oh, yeah, I'll do
We
it.
haven't started.
Oh, yeah, I've been doing it my whole life. I mean, just in my garden this year was like $600 just for the garden. So to get the tiller and the soil and some of the other things. Soil is the biggest thing for me.
I don't know what the name of it is,
That's why we're trying to find some
but
way.
it's, you know, that's what you're looking for. I got it this big because, I use this as demonstration.
A lot of land,
Definitely
40 acres.
would not try it.
That's right in the middle of it.
I'm gonna have something like this. Because it's gotta be light enough. for me.
No buying and selling eventually. You know, how you gonna pay off,
But this is just a
pay off your
demonstration.
house and stuff like that.
So somebody was asking about my emergency blanket. This is my other emergency. It's not wool, but it's a recycled material.
Okay.
It's fake wool, it's called fool.
And you keep that in your mouth.
Looks like.
I keep that in my box.
Okay.
I also keep a blanket and pillows in my car.
Okay.
Like,
Price is going up with you. It's crazy.
Oh, that, I got it from, doing a presentation. at
Okay,
Business.
I found
They're the ones who make these blankets, so they gifted that to me, so I just think, I don't know what we're gonna do.
I know that.
Right. Can't find it. It's usually, yes, very, pretty much. Right.
Well, you can email her. Yeah, you can email her. But I think,
Let's see.
you guess this list of jobs then.
I know, it's such a natural corrector. I kind of started correcting back after
Yeah.
2001.
Put your info down here.
Believe it or not, I did not start out as a civil engineer. I did this actually started out as a corrector.
Oh, yeah,
So in your camping areas, you're gonna find all sorts of different kind of fire starters and stuff like that. So just find what works for you. I have this stuff that, it's called, it's the instant fire, and, you know, all you have to do is put it in a little pile and it will start right up. And this is that, emergency food ration thing.
MRE.
That's nastier than.
That's not the one of the, that's not the bottom one, is it?
No, I had that whole.
I
I
had
just have it
Okay.
to show people.
That's one thing when you're in the military and stuff, they're kind of training on a little.
They have it.
You just gotta combine it with spiritual stuff, with magnetism and stuff like that, so it's.
At the back here, I have the, what you would use for the chlorine bleach. You know, the ratio to put in.
Yeah, that's much.
Things like that.
I wish I brought my phone up.
The ratio, oh, yeah, the ratio.
Oh, it's regular.
Yeah, so that you can, oh.
No, I was.
This block,
And learn, so like,
this block should be able to last you
Well,
quite a while. You know, you will get tired of it before the end of the day. I don't use it, I just show it to people.
Those are the protein boxes,
Oh, yeah,
right?
I've tried it. No, this is something that once you break the seal and stuff like that, even though it feels like a brick, you're able to break it off.
It's one of those protein boxes, right?
protein thing.
Yeah, I heard about those. I've never actually seen one, but I've heard about them. You can get a soldier for like a week. That's what I heard the rumors say.
Now, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you guys about was, in your, go bags, I like to use things that, reduce the amount of waste that, that has to happen, right? So, I looked up and found these hand warmers. And I just want to show you what stages they're in, okay? These were all bought at the same time. And the way that you get it back to this is to just drop it into some boiling water, and it will return back to this state. And all you have to do is click this button. And it starts doing that. But the problem is that even though I dropped this into boiling water, it immediately went back to this. I didn't pop the button or anything like that. So over time, it eventually will degrade and things like that. So in regards to that, if you want to invest into getting something like that, that's fine. Just understand that it may end up like this, okay? These are still usable, even though they still have the solid stuff floating around in there, but soon they're gonna end up like this. So I'm just saying that Walmart sells the little hand warmers that last for 10 hours for less than $1. I would just go ahead and buy a bunch of those and have those available. Because once it's finished, you can just throw it into your fireplace, throw it into your campfire, and it will burn up and you won't be leaving any waste. So, that's what I have just decided to do, because it's not a small pain to buy these reusable ones. Yes, ma'am.
How long do these last?
Usually they last between 10 and 15 hours.
Oh,
Okay. Also, when you're putting together your bob, I used to have everything, I was just trying to put it into the different pockets. Most backpacks do not have pockets other than what's on the outside, right? Sometimes there might be an inner pocket for the water bladder, but it's usually just for the water bladders. So I went to Dollar Tree, and found these little cases. And I found that after I put my stuff in here, that I actually ended up with more room in my backpack than if I had left it loose. So, look for ways to be able to make your pack work. The next thing I'm working on is labeling it so that I know which bag actually has stuff in it. I also found these little things like this to use in my pantry, what backpackers call pantry. And that is your liquid stuff, maybe my honey or my oil or something like that. So look around for things that are able to hold your products. The other thing is that liquid soap is fine, but your bar soap is going to last a lot longer, okay? Because you know that if you take your bar soap, you wet your hands and you just do one swipe and put it back, you've got plenty of soap. This is gonna last a lot longer, and you're not going to have to worry about spillage, right? That the container being compromised. Oh, this is the life straw that he was talking about. So,
Yeah, pretty much.
so when you go through the process of filtering your water, yeah, you can just put it back.
Everybody's seen it already.
Everybody's seen it. So this is what I would use this after I filter, clean my water, just to be on the safe side, because it does filter, it's still filtered, but I would just put it onto my water. I thought my tablets were here. Sorry, it's not. Okay.
Give a fair warning, if the liquid soaps don't always work out the best you want in the field, and like she said, go with the bar soap, not necessarily just for what she said, but if you try to use liquid soap near like a river or a bank, it will foam up that entire area and everyone will know where you are. I'm just gonna be honest with you, I know that from personal experience.
Right. But the thing is that you also want to have environmentally friendly soaps, and stuff like that. Not all of your liquid soaps are environmental.
That's true too.
So, in order not to contaminate that lake for not only yourself and other people, but also for the animals. The animals cannot do that. Okay. Go bags are easier to comprehend now that you know, and this is in there because some people weren't sure. As a backpacking pack, and so they have shelter, food, the availability to have potable water, and more. So you want to have clothes in there. This is my rain gear. It's by Frog Talks. Okay, so it's water repellent and everything like that, and I can put it over my clothes. So I particularly got black because I don't want to be seen, but you can see, you can get it in green, you can get it in black, you can get it even in bright colors and stuff like that. And then I also have, a change of clothes and things like that. Your go bag should be tailored to the environment in which they will be used. So if I'm pretty much in a state or an area where it doesn't really get cold, it might get cool, it might even get uncomfortably cool, but it doesn't get freezing cold or something like that, then I'm not gonna put, winter level stuff in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to layer. I'm gonna layer my clothes and stuff like that. And so I'll have it here, what can be layered. You're gonna want that even if you're in a winter situation, because you sweat and everything like that, and you're gonna need to take that stuff off and put on something hot, okay? So the medical go bag is a pack that is well stocked with first aid material and may even have surgical instruments and dental instruments. That's the only two things that are lacking out of my pack, but this is a field medic level backpack, right? That brown one. I also have a larger one at home. And then in my go bags, there are smaller first aid kits. Okay? So you want to have those things in each one of your go bags. So you want to have food in there, at least 3 to 6 meals in there. You want to have energy sustaining snacks like dried fruit, nuts, granola, or cereal bars, instant soups and noodles, rice, things like that. My husband always provides me, this is a ready-to-eat tomatoes, okay? And you don't have to put water in it or anything like that. I can put it on top of my little burner stove and everything and heat it up in this can, okay? You want at your work or school, you want to have at least 1 to 2 cases of water or 5 to 10 gallons. Okay, that's not only for yourself, but also in case you want to share it with somebody. You want that, of course, for drinking, cleansing, and just to have water. Shelter, unless the building is absolutely destroyed, this may not be a major issue, right? So if you're being forced to shelter in place at work, that means that at least a portion of the building is still safe for occupancy. So what you want to concentrate on then is making sure that you're warm, that you have extra clothes, sweater, coat, blanket, that you have cash on you in case you have to run out. You need to think about what could be other currency, things that you might be able to trade with somebody. You need to always have your ID on, always have it on your person. Even when you go to the bathroom, even when you just step outside, always have your ID on you, at least your driver's license, or if you're required at work to have ID, always have that on. Make sure you have some tools, like your multi-tools. I don't go anywhere without my multi-tool. This bag is always with me, my other little go bag. And I have my flashlight. And I actually have two multi-tools. Yeah. So you want to make sure that you have what is necessary. Again, you want to make sure that you have sturdy shoes and boots. Communication. How are you going to communicate with each other? Okay. If you're unable to call each other inside the disaster area, what is a different way? Does anybody know?
My wife
Give a suggestion.
and I got radios.
Okay.
With like a 17-mile radius. So
Okay.
just in case the phones are out, we're still walkie-talkie.
So you're walkie-talkie type of thing. All right. Anything else?
Somebody I like is have that walkie-talkie.
Okay. All right. So it would be a good idea as well, if you're able to do it, to get your ham radio license, which is shortwave radio. And it allows you, let me tell you, if you have that, you're almost indispensable to emergency authorities.
If you have one, you also get a big call sign like 85 UUF.
The name of the what?
Call sign like 85 UUF.
Oh, okay. Which must be your call sign.
Exactly.
Okay. So you get a call sign and everything like that. You can communicate. You can actually, with your ham radio, you can communicate with the guys up in space, somebody over in Africa, somebody in Russia, the ham radio. But during an emergency, they are specifically looking for being able to communicate when the phone lines and things are down. Okay. We already talked about designated and out of area contact. You need to know the name, telephone number, email, their physical address, stuff like that. Each family member can carry a wallet-sized contact information card or have information entered on their mobile device. Make sure you also have a whistle. Because if you're in your job or even at school, make sure your children have a whistle so that they can be found. That whistle needs to stay on their person. You will want to communicate with each other, local authorities, and out of area family members. So your landline services might be limited or totally out. Cell phone service may be out or limited, or it may be restricted by local authorities. But even if there is not those restrictions, just because everybody is trying to find out if their family, friends, or whatever is okay, it will overload the cell phone tower, and then you won't be able to communicate. Texting is usually the easiest way to communicate. during a time when there's heavy use going on. Usually your text message can get through. I was able to text my girlfriend during 9/11, and she was able to text me. But that also happened after some of the restrictions in New York were raised. Know the disaster and communication plan for your workplace. You know, if you don't know where you're supposed to assemble, if you know, a fire is going on, then what's the use of it? You know, sometimes at the stairwell or something like that, they will have a little escape plan or whatever. Become familiar with that. But also find out if there are additional information, such as, does your workplace have a shelter-in-place policy? You know, do they have food and water in case you have to stay there? You know, do they have a way to keep you protected in case there's rioting going on or something like that? You need to know how they're going to react in a disaster and what the communication will happen throughout the business. The same needs to happen for the school that you have your child at. If they are going to a regular school, you need to find out what they have. If they don't have it, you need to insist that they figure out something. You know, because they're obligated to make sure that our children are safe. If you can use the cell phone service, keep your cell phone calls short. No other means, like I was saying, about your short range, which are your walkie-talkies, and your short and long range, which is your amateur radio, and then, which is the ham radio. Then also make sure you have your designated points of contact. Right? You know who to contact locally as well as out of state or out of area. Make sure that for your car, large go bag and a medical go bag is pretty good to have in there. Regular, consistent maintenance is key. Make sure that you have your extra oils and fluids, because if you're stuck out there and you're running your car, guess what? You're gonna run out of gas, you know, and depending on how hot it is or how whatever is going on, especially if you're not doing very well and keeping your car maintained, you may have to add oil or something like that. Make sure you have your jumbo cables and your tow chain. I always make sure you have a windshield shade, because if you're stuck out there on the highway and your windows aren't tinted or something like that, you know, you're at the mercy of the sun and the heat. And also, if you're stuck out there, especially during the nighttime or something, I use mine for privacy, you know, to make my car a little bit more private so that people aren't looking in. Because if they see that you've got food, water, and all these different things, they may come and try and forcefully take it from you. The other thing is that you want to make sure that your gas cap is either key or locked or somehow, so that nobody can come during the night and siphon your gas. Okay? Instead of a standard spare tire, which comes with the car all the time, right? That only gets you so far and you can only go so fast on it. See about changing it to the regular size tire that is on your vehicle. Why? Because if you can put that regular size tire as the spare, then you're not limited in where you can go. Okay? That same size tire will take you home or take you to your destination, whereas those little donuts in your car, you know, will only get you so far. Usually they're.
Yeah, I think they're regulated from like 50 to 100 miles at 50 miles an hour, and that's it.
That's it.
So.
And some people have been able to push it a little bit farther, but, you know, you're still taking a risk. But, you know, especially if you're out in the middle of nowhere and you don't really know where everything is or whether it says that there's a town 20 miles ahead, but sometimes these towns disappear because they don't have enough people or whatever. And especially if you're alone, whether you're male or female, if you're alone, you're at the mercy of whoever you encounter if you are not prepared, right? Make sure that you have your reflective vest. So that when you're out there working on your, if you're having to change your tire or you're needing to check your vehicle, while you're out there on the side of the road, make sure you're able to be seen. There are people do not pay attention. They're on their phones, they're texting while they're driving at 70 and 80 miles per hour. So you want to have something that you can be seen with. Okay? Make sure you have your blankets, your water, waste collection container if needed. Okay, ladies, we usually have to have something in order to go to the bathroom, especially out in the wild. And so if you can have something, I have one. This one, I think. So that I can use the bathroom without, the world knowing. Okay. And then also have activities. It's good for us to have stuff for the kids. It really is. But if you can also have something for yourself. I play, I call it solitaire, but it's actually Uno. I play Uno with myself. So it's solitaire for me. If you play solitaire, that's no problem. But I have stuff not only for myself, but also for my grandkids when they're in the car. So I don't know if many of you guys may have gotten this at one of the camp. It was Pastor Leal who passed these things out at one of the last adventure camporees that I went to. And it's just a family worship spinner, and you just do it. And, especially when I'm in the car with my grandkids, I tell them pull it out and let's do it while we're traveling, even. So, then this is a little game that they can play amongst themselves. I have books that I download onto my little Fire Amazon thingy, and I read my books, so because I can download tons of books onto it, right? So just have activities for yourself and for your kids, because many times it's a stress reliever. It allows you to take a few minutes to calm down so that you can now react in the best possible way, okay? When sheltering in your vehicle, keep 1 or 2 windows cracked for fresh air circulation. Never keep them all up when you're having to just sit in the car. Only run the car if necessary. Conserve gas to be able to drive out when possible. Okay? We're thinking, if it's cold, I want to have that heat going. This is why you need to have your emergency blankets in there. This is how you can get close and personal with family and stuff like that. Sharing the body heat and whatnot. Park your car as safely as possible. Pull it off to the shoulder. Make sure that it's not going to puncture your tires or anything like that, but pull it off to the shoulder. That way, if anything is going on, you have a little bit of maneuverability and stuff. Okay? Like I've said before, have the locking gas cap. If it's safe to do so, walk around outside of the car to stay limber and keep your blood flow going. Keep a small shovel to dig a place to dispose of your waste if you need to, or to even dig your car out, right? When you're having to stay in there, keep your doors always locked. Have your sturdy shoes. Evacuation, always follow official statements concerning evacuation procedures and routes, okay? This is why it's very important to know more than one way to get to and from any of your destinations. If there are no announced evacuation procedures, consider your location. Decide if you need to leave and have several routes mapped out. During peacetime, familiarize yourself and your family on the routes you will take. Not only just seeing what's in the area, but also, you know that if I leave from my house, it's exactly 1.2 miles to where I have to turn. So that you're not having to recognize what's there, but you know that 1.2 miles, I turn left or I turn right to go to where I need to go. Will your family need to ride their bikes? Consider the panniers, bike trailers, make sure to have repair tools for your bike and stuff like that. Learn how to ride your bike. It's a good form of exercise. And let me tell you, a lot of people would have saved themselves a lot of heartache during some of the disasters that happened down south. They had a bike or were healthy enough to walk out. Okay? Will your family need to hike out? Physical fitness, a wagon, okay? For children or the elderly, or for carrying your supplies. Okay? If I have to take Big Bob, then I'm taking that trailer, that wagon. Okay? Become self-sustainable. Make your own products. Okay? I make my own soap, but I also make my own butter. And it's not dairy. It's coconut oil and olive oil and liquid lysine. And I tell you that the butter tastes better than this actual one. I have the recipe if you want it. Okay? You know, choose a place to start your garden. Okay? Go and buy the seed. You know, there was up in the north, there for a while, during the heaviest part of COVID, you were unable to buy gardening supplies.
Unessential.
It was unessential. And so they took it off the shelf, which didn't make any sense. Okay? Why would you take it off the shelf or restrict people from buying it? Well, it's because they want to control how well you are self-sustaining. Okay. As your garden gets established, think about checking out places called pick your own. Excuse me. These are large orchards, farms, and things like that, where you can go and get pick your own fruits, vegetables, whatever it is that they sell. And that way you can go ahead and start canning, dehydrating, and stuff like that. And until your garden comes in or gets better established or anything like that, then you can start depending on your garden more versus going to these pick your owns. Okay? Learn your basic first aid and CPR. Use natural remedies wherever and whenever possible. Understand that natural remedies have a place. Okay? But if you've got a major headache that needs to be taken care of, it's okay to take a Tylenol. Okay? But if you also know how to give a pretty good massage, or you know what to do to alleviate the headache through massage, then that's going to be even better. It's going to be even more healthy. All right? Learn hike, bike hike, camp, use your survival skills. Take your Bob out. Don't let Bob just sit there. Okay? You need to know what's in Bob, what needs to go into Bob. You need to know how to use what's in Bob. Okay? Learn to use your tools. If you've got a multi-tool, what's the purpose of it if you don't know how to use anything on it, right? Learn to do some do-it-yourself simple repairs. You know, once that time of no buy, no sell comes, are you going to be able to call in the plumber? Are you going to be able to call in the construction person to fix this or to redo the roof or whatever? So learn to do some simple repairs on your own. Recycle, repurpose, okay? consider what it is, but don't hoard things. Don't junk up your place because you're taking away from where you can store things. Okay? Learn about time making. Has anybody ever heard of time making? Time making, in as simple as I can say it, is that you have a skill and I have a skill. Okay? And all we're doing is exchanging hour for hour. Okay? So if you're really good at gardening and I really can't seem to get my garden done, I will say, can you give me 3 hours of your time to just show me how to get started, whatever, right? And in exchange for those 3 hours, I'm going to give you 3 hours of massage. Would you exchange that with me?
Yes.
Yes.
Or, maybe I have my grandkids and I need to go someplace and, hey, sister, can you watch my grandkids for me for a few hours? And in exchange, I'll give you a massage or whatever my skill is. Maybe I can do a little bit of plumbing. Maybe I can do a little bit of electrical work or something like that. So what you're doing in time making is you're exchanging hour for hour for the skill. Okay? So when all is said and done, do your part and be smart. At some point, the supplies will run low or run out. Okay? Trusting that God will provide is essential to survival. It is impossible to plan and have supplies for every possible scenario. It really is. You must plan according to your area, to your needs, and to your ability. Every person in the family should be a part of the planning and execution process. Children need to know what to do and how to respond. This provides a level of feeling and being safe when they know what to do. Okay? So it's not just your spouse that needs to know how to turn off the gas, the water, the electricity. So do your children. Okay? Watch preparedness videos with the family. I had my family, they were sick of it. Okay? But I can tell you that, and even besides the videos, I even made them watch certain disaster movies because I wanted them to see what the mentality of the authorities is. If they don't want to tell you until the last minute, then that's what they're going to do. Okay? There's no such thing as telling you really in enough time for you to react in a way that you should comfortably be able to. And if you've watched any of these disaster movies, you will see that the authorities are arguing back and forth, and there's political upheaval going on. If the president doesn't tell you in time, he may not be, reelected, or the governor, or the mayor. Okay? It's so that you understand that if you have an understanding and if you can be prepared, even with a little bit, you can have these videos and these movies that will show you what you can do to prepare. Okay? Or to even understand kind of what is going on behind the scenes. Okay? Practice as a family. After we would watch a video, sometimes I would call a disaster weekend. Disaster weekend was no electricity, no water, so that meant that, there was no TV going on, internet was turned off, the whole 9 yards. Okay? And we just had to figure out how to get through the weekend without disaster. Through the disaster. And it's what helped me design Bob. Okay? Because I can go by the list and I can put everything that's on the list in Bob. But is everything on the list useful for me and my family? No. Okay? Live a whole weekend, like I said, as if going through an emergency or a disaster. This is what we call a tabletop scenario. And what we did was, if I couldn't call a disaster weekend, then we would sit around the table, get our bobs, and I would create a scenario, and we would respond to that scenario, depending on what time it was, where we were, etc. Okay? So you're choosing the emergency, you're choosing the time of day, then you go through your plan. Who are we contacting? Where are our important papers if we need them, etc., etc. Share what each person will do depending on where they are and what is happening. Have your go back so that you can pull out and use the items. Okay? Analyze and make changes, adjustments as needed, and repeat, repeat, repeat. Physical preparedness. We're almost done. Physical preparedness, exercise. If you are not healthy, it will be difficult to survive whether you're at home, work, school, or in your car. Ride your bicycle. Ride it with weight on it. Okay? If you can't get the panniers, then put Bob, whichever Bob you're going to be using, onto your back and ride your bike so that you know what it feels like to travel with Bob. Okay? Every person in the family needs to have a Bob. Okay? Do not let dad and mom be carrying everything in the bag. Okay? Kids can carry their snacks. Kids can carry their activities. Kids can carry their water. Kids can carry certain things. They can carry their change of clothes. You know, you can make a basic Bob that still needs to have food in it so that for whatever reason, and it happens, you get separated. Your child is not starving because you have everything in your Bob. Okay? So think about that. Discipline yourself to eat 2 meals a day. This is suggested by the Spirit of Prophecy that when we are basically at home, we should be eating about 2 meals per day. However, if you're in a physically demanding job, you need to have the 3 squares. You need to have your 3 squares. Practice, practice, practice. Practicing trains the mind and body to respond automatically to certain situations. If you weren't practicing your piano, would you be able to do it? Okay? If you, so you understand that in order to play like you did, you had to practice, right? So in order to be prepared to respond, you have to, it's like when he was playing so fast, it was like, does he know where, you know, how does he know where to put his fingers and stuff like that? Well, because of practice, it's almost like they automatically went there, right? So when we practice through a disaster scenario, it does the same thing because it kicks in, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. It also calms you down because if you know what to do, then you're able to respond like you're supposed to, okay? Live the 8 laws of health daily. Have supplies away from home if possible, okay? But don't let everybody know where it is. Because if for whatever reason your supplies are destroyed at home and you let people know where you have your other supplies and they're in the same situation, guess what? It's going to be a race to get there first, right? So just keep that to yourself. Remember, it is okay to feel overwhelmed or even panicky, but it is not okay to stay that way. Thinking through what must be done reduces the stress of the situation. Make lists of the things your family needs and work on it step by step. You can't do it all at once, but work on it step by step. Write out the plan and distribute it to each person. It will reduce the stress. Get one of these, print out your thing and then get the little plastic sleeve, put it into your child's backpack or whatever, so that they know step by step. And that way, all they have to remember at that time is pull out the list, pull out the plan. Instead of, oh no, what am I supposed to do now? Am I supposed to call mom? Am I supposed to call dad? Am I supposed to call Uncle John? Okay, it's already on the list. It's in their pack. All they have to do is remember to pull it out. Okay? Fortify your heart and mind with the scriptures, especially the promises. Hide His word in your heart, not only so that you don't sin against God, but also so that His promises can give you strength, mentally and spiritually. Mental preparedness also requires that you may have to encounter death. It is a must that we talk to our children about this subject in this day and age. Okay? We have to know and have an understanding about death in the state of the day. Riots and violence, be comfortable with your decision on how you're going to protect your family. I know Brother Daniel was talking about pulling out his gun and stuff like that. You know what? You have to be comfortable with that and not be influenced by what everybody else says. When I was in the city, no, I don't want any guns or anything like that. But it's probably where I actually need it, right? But now that we've moved out into the country, we have a dog that has not less than 3 times has encountered wild pigs, snakes, and a wildcat. Okay? Although these things haven't happened on our property, it has happened near our property. She was pretty chewed up, and she survived. But, I understand that I might have to do that, especially if I'm walking my property with one of those animals is on my property. We have a large pond on our property, and so, they already told me that there are water moccasins and copperheads in the area. I may not be able to do it. I might have to, pack the heat things. Okay. So you have to be comfortable with your decision on what you're going to use. The destruction of property. Now you have to talk about this, that a natural or man-made destruction of your property is very mentally taxing. I don't know if anybody has been a victim of a crime where they come in and wipe your house out and stuff like that. That is mentally very debilitating, and especially when you have children, their things have been taken or been destroyed, and it's senseless and things like that. So you have to talk about these things and discuss with your family and remind them that these things are replaceable. At least we're still a family. You are irreplaceable. Okay? Running out of supplies, and if your supplies are stolen. Okay? If you're very open with, I'm getting this amount of, bread or food or whatever, if you're making, the other day I was at the gas station and I was filling up my gas cans. And I was seriously getting it for the extra storage and things like that. A lady next to me was like, oh, you're getting a lot of gas. What's that for? I said, I have 40 acres. He was like, oh, okay. I do. I have 40 acres. I do need to mow it, and I do use a rider to mow, but I only mow around my house. But, the thing is that many times when you're being that candid and open with people, it can put you in a dangerous situation. Because people are watching, they're wondering what's going on. And the other thing is that if I'm saying, oh, I'm a prepper, and I'm getting this stuff, because I heard such and such, you can cause a panic. Okay? And you don't want to do that. So, but the other thing is, which is more detrimental to you, is that there are people watching what you're doing. And when they start seeing you getting all this stuff, then next thing you know, somebody's gonna be following you, trying to figure out what you're doing and things like that, so you have to be careful. But, never have everything in one place, even on your property. If you are able to, have something a little bit separate, or, we're already discussing whether we need to bury some of our buckets, to just have it so that it's not out there and whatnot. But again, this is a discussion that we're doing within the family. Discuss with your family if you're unable to get in contact with your point of contact. Okay? Because that can be very frustrating. Nobody can communicate, and I'm unable to get in touch with the outside contact. Remind them, follow the plan. If you can't do number one, which is contact, whichever you've got, follow the plan. Stick to the plan as much as possible. If everyone follows the plan, you will eventually know if everyone is fine or not. Okay? He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. This is the Psalm of promise. That God is going to be with us if we hide under his wings. Again, we can do all of this, but if we're not relying on the provider, we're not going to make it. He says that we don't have to be afraid. He says that we don't even have to be afraid of COVID. It walks in the darkness, nor the destruction that wasteth at noonday. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand. But it won't come nigh us. But you know what? Even if it does, what did Daniel's 3 friends say? When they were gonna be thrown into the fiery furnace, what did Daniel's 3 friends say to the king?
Even if we die, it's okay.
It's okay. What did Job say? Though he slay me, yet will I trust him.
Amen.
Okay. So even if we don't get to, have that promise enacted for us, he still says that we can still be able to trust him and we don't have to be afraid. Why? What did we read in the scripture reading? He was with us until the very end. Okay? Thou shalt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusted in thee. This should be our theme as we prepare. He will keep us in perfect peace. You know what? I don't have everything. I'm not perfectly prepared. There's no way I can be perfectly prepared. I trust him that he will provide for my needs. He says that he will provide all my needs. So if I don't have it in Bob, if I don't have it on this table, if I don't have it in my car, if I need it, he will provide.
Amen.
Hast thou not known? Hast thou not heard that the everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth, fainteth not, neither is weary? There is no searching of his understanding. He giveth power to the faint, and to them that have no might he increases 3. Even the youth shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fail. What does the last part say? Let's say it. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Isn't this a promise that if we have to walk away from our homes, literally, that He will give us the strength so that we don't faint? I will lift up mine eyes into the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord. The Lord is going to help you get what you want to provide. He will provide. Your help comes from the Lord. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. He is thy keeper. He is your shade upon the right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. You don't even understand how precious that promise is. We have to make it our own. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. Get ready, get ready, get ready. You must have a greater preparation here in your heart. For the day of the Lord cometh, cruel, both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate and to destroy the sinners thereof out of it. Sacrifice all to God. Lay all upon his altar. Self, property, all. Make it a living sacrifice. It will take all to enter into glory. Lay up for yourselves what? Treasures in heaven, where nobody can approach it, where rust does not corrupt it. You must be partakers of Christ's sufferings here. So that tells us already that we're going to be going through a time that is going to cause us suffering. We can prepare, and it will alleviate some of the suffering. But we have been told that some of us are just not going to be able to miss out, right? Upon especially the persecution. Partakers of Christ's suffering here, if we would be partakers with him of his glory hereafter. If I have to suffer in order to be a partaker, I'm willing. Man cannot possibly work out his own salvation without the ordained divine power, and God will not do for man that which he requires man shall do for himself, through his own earnest, willing cooperation. That's not just spiritual, but it's also physical. Okay? Get ready, get ready, get ready. I saw that the remnant were not prepared. Look into your own lives. I know that I'm not as prepared as I would like to be spiritually. I'm working on it. We have to work on it in our families and individually. We have to be prepared for what is coming upon the earth. Prepare to meet thy God. Suppose that today Christ should appear in the clouds of heaven. We would be ready to meet him. I really want to raise my hand and say I want to. I am. But I know that I'm not. We all have to look in and say, am I ready today? Should Christ appear? I'm telling you that this preparation is more important than getting your body ready. Okay. God will work with our efforts. Again, I urge the necessity of a thorough work in the home life. While these duties so essential were neglected, we need not expect the blessing of God. The Lord will work with our efforts, but all will not do the work he has given us to do. God will not do for us that which we can do for ourselves, but he has said, seek ye the Lord while he may be found. Call ye upon him while he is near. Let the wicked forsake his way, and the unrighteous man his thoughts, and let him return unto the Lord, and he will have mercy on him, and to our God, for he will abundantly pardon. Remember this song?
Yeah.
Read your Bible, pray every day, and you'll grow, grow, grow. Neglect your Bible, forget to pray. And you'll shrink, shrink, shrink. Okay? At the last of this presentation, that is the emphasis. That is what I want you to go away with. Is that if you're not reading your Bible, praying every day, seeking God and preparing your hearts and minds, this is nothing. This is nothing. So what about, you've heard about this stockpiling in 40. Well, we've been warned. The Lord has shown me a vision repeatedly that it is contrary to the Bible to make any provision for our temporal wants in when?
Time of trouble.
Are we in the time of trouble? We're encountering some trouble, but we're not in the time of trouble.
Okay.
Okay? So let's make sure that we're reading this correctly.
Well, if some Ukrainian Adventists are reading this right now,
Right.
they are.
They're in that time of trouble, right? Okay. But they have to rely on God. Okay? For us here, to make provision for our temporal wants. What are our temporal wants? That means our physical needs. In the time of trouble, I saw that if the saints have food laid up by them or in the fields in the time of trouble, when sword, famine, and pestilence are in the land, it will be taken away from them by violent hands, and strangers would reap their fields. This is why she told us at the beginning, again and again, we've been told to move out into the country where we can raise our own provisions and be at a place where our enemies will not interfere. Okay? Then will be the time for us to trust God wholly, trust wholly in God, and he will sustain us. I saw that our bread and water would be sure at that time, and we should not lack our supper. This is a promise. This is a promise. The Lord has shown me that some of his children would, when they see the price of food rising, are we seeing it rising?
Yes.
And they would buy food and lay it up for the time of trouble. But what does it say? Then, in a time of need, I saw them go to their food and look at it. And what did it do? I've got these Mylar bags. You know, that's what preppers now use, Mylar bags to store their grains and foods and things like that. You know, those things work. If you put in the oxygen absorbers and different things like that, you can definitely reduce the issues of worms and other living creatures. But we are still human and we still make mistakes. And you know what? We can't get we might not be able to get 100% seal on that thing. If we're doing it in direct conflict to what she told us right here, then it doesn't matter how well you seal your bag. If you're doing it against what God says, it's still going to have worms. It's still going to have bugs. Okay? You only need to provide for just a little while. Just a little while. Just like we fill our pantries and things like that, if you're in the country, so that, you know, if you're snowed in like we were last winter, the road that we're on is not shoveled. And even though I have a 4-wheel drive, it doesn't mean that I can get off my property. So only when the snow melted or we were able to move around a little bit were we able to leave. But if I hadn't been planning for the winter and that possibility of being stuck on the property, then I wouldn't have had any food. But I'm not building barns for excess food. I don't need it. There's only 3 of us on the property. I don't need to be able to feed 100 people. Okay? I just need to provide for what me and my family needs at that time. And yes, I'll have a little extra to share if necessary or to get by, but not to hoard it against a perceived time of trouble. Okay? So preparedness versus stockpiling, there is a difference. Preparedness, making sure that you have sufficient provision to make it through either the crisis and or the winter. Stockpiling is storing more than is usable and building barns for the extra. We don't want to be like that man who said, oh, I've got everything. You know, my barns are too full, so let me build more barns. And what did God say? Tonight, I require your soul. So what are you going to do with it? It's just going to sit there, right? It is not necessary to stockpile. God said that he will provide. So what time is it? It is no time now for God's people to be fixing their affections or laying up their treasure in the world. The time is not far distant when, like the early disciples, we shall be forced to seek a refuge in desolate and solitary places. So thinking about the previous quote, if you're stockpiling, but God has said, okay, now it's time for you to seek refuge in desolate and solitary places, are you going to try and pack out 50 pounds of grain? It's actually just going to be sitting there. Okay? That's why you just get what you need for when you need it. As the siege of Jerusalem by the Roman armies was the signal for flight to the Judean Christian, so the assumption of power on the part of our nation in the decree enforcing the papal Sabbath will be the warning for us. Time of trouble. It will then be time to leave the large cities, preparatory to leaving the smaller one, for retired homes and secluded places among the mountains. And now, instead of seeking expensive dwellings here, we should be preparing to move to a better country, even a heavenly. We should now be studying to economize. Okay? Final word. Lo, I am with you all, even unto the end of the world. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. We don't have to be afraid. Okay? I can send you this list. It has a little bit more if you want to do some further study on what Sister White talks about in preparation, not only for physically and moving into the country, etc., but also what the scriptures say. And there's my contact information, and that's the end of the presentation. If there's any questions or anything like that, I'm here to answer those questions. A lot of information I've also gotten out of books. I have the books here so that you can look at them and get an idea of what I had done in regards to my bob. One of the things is that this is a demonstration bob. Okay? My working bob is right here because I don't, Pastor tried to lift this, right? And yeah, it's too heavy. It's too heavy. So, you know, This, like I said, this is just a demonstration of things that you can put in it, how you want to put in it, and things like that. But, you know, that's what those things are, how to dehydrate food, how to put recipes together to, you know, put into your packs and things like that. So, you know, just whatever questions you have, please ask me, and I thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.
So, I'm gonna pass the plate around and collect a quick offering. Again, we want to thank our sister for joining us today. We'll have time after this to just ask questions and to do stuff, but we'll pass around the plate.
Take my.
I got a question
Yes, sir.
or just maybe a statement. I helped somebody do some chores and stuff, and so they paid me. I know y'all are against dairy or something, but he paid me in powdered goat's milk.
Okay.
And I'm like, well, what am I going to do with that? But I found out through a friend that women who can't produce milk need baby formula. What are we a shortage on?
Exactly.
What can you use as a replacement?
Right.
Goat's milk, because it actually has the nutrition it needs. So
Right.
sometimes you got to think outside the box, and whatever the Lord brings into your area, you might not want. Let's say beef jerky. That's easy to store.
Yeah.
But somebody out there might be very appreciative of it over apple flakes or whatever.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of things out there that, even though we don't consume them and we don't want them, that was one that kind of threw me off, because he's like, here's $20 and some dried, goat's milk. I'm like, what am I going to do with that? But then the shortage came
But
up.
the thing is that you could also use that milk in exchange for something that they have.
Yeah, exactly.
They could either buy it from you, or, they can exchange it for a skill that they have
Yeah.
or something like that. And that way, if we learn how to do the bartering where we're
Mhm.
not buying and selling all the time and exchanging money, then we'll become more comfortable with it when that time comes. And as we do it, people will be like, oh, they won't worry so much whether we have the mark, because they're already used to dealing with us barter.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're always, hey, I don't want to always exchange cash, so, can you babysit for me? Can you help me with my garden? Can you help me with some construction, roof, whatever? Then they get used to that, and then you're not always having to do this exchange
Yeah.
of money. Because the Bible says that there's gonna come a point where we're gonna be throwing that stuff out in the street.
Yeah.
Right? So what use is it going to be for us? Any other questions?
All right, awesome. Well, we'll officially close, and then we can just kind of open it up for more questions. If you would like, let's say actually, Pastor, if you could close us out.
Well, thank you so much, Monique, again for coming. And if you didn't bring cash, you can also do Zelle.
Amen.
Are you encouraged or discouraged?
Encouraged.
Encouraged. Yeah, excited. I said 12 months, it may be 15, maybe even shorter than that. But I have a feeling that we're really there on the brink of time versus eternity, right? We're right there. Jesus is going to come back soon. So in the meantime, we still have work to do. We still have friends and neighbors to invite to walk closer with God. We can pray over some of their needs and help them with things. Lead them in a Bible study. Bring them to a little concert with Acevedo girls and perpetual boys. I don't know. We can get creative on how to build our little community here and wherever we are planted in this area. And when we come together on the Sabbath, we come together to celebrate our new friendships, new brothers and sisters out there. Dan Stearns used to be a pastor at the Richardson Church, now he's in California. He was saying, uh, in every person you meet that you don't know, the new person you meet, look into their eyes and see a prospective Adventist. And, look 6 months down the road, they will be there in their pews collecting offering, being a deacon or deaconess. And pray over them and be nice to them. And hopefully they will be able to open up to you and you can be a friend. Don't get the Bible and be ready to, but they will eventually ask for more information and you can lead them closer to Jesus because you're good friends. So don't be discouraged. We know we've lost a couple people. I was so hoping right before I stood up to preach that they were going to move maybe an hour and 10 minutes away and that they would consider remaining part of our congregation. But life moves on and we will be Jesus is still with us, right?
Amen.
Let's stand. Let's come closer. Maybe we can I don't know if we can make a circle here. Hold hands and have a nice. I don't know. We know a little song. We can. Sure.
Okay.
You guys should lead us in a small song. Yeah, standing between Daniel. Not too long.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah, you guys should come closer.
Yeah, that works. I think.
Brian still needs to
come-
get in the circle.
Is there a song we can sing
Tighter
together?
circle, tighter circle.
Okay, you guys.
No.
Oh, yeah, I know that song. I know the lyrics.
Side by
Side by
You know, side by side.
Yeah, side by side. Side by side we stand, awaiting God's command, worshiping the saving King, living by His grace and moving on in faith. Jesus Himself will see us through. We'll sing songs together, leaning by the Savior's side. I'll teach you in heaven, we'll sing songs together. Brothers and sisters, I'll be there. Soldiers all are we to go where Jesus leads. We'll fight the foe and we shall overcome. Heaven is our goal to save every soul. Pray that we all will be there. In heaven we'll sing songs together, leave me at the Savior's side. I'll meet you in heaven, we'll join hands together, brothers and sisters, I'll be there. Pray that we all will be there.
Dear Patty, thank you so much for putting in our hearts the desire for eternity. And we're built with a longing and a desire for heaven and for Jesus, His face, His voice, in an unmediated relationship and friendship. We can't wait for that day. In the meantime, we're approaching the end of this beautiful, glorious weekly Sabbath. I pray, Lord, that We will all soon be with you and with our loved ones. But in the meantime, help us embrace this new week that's coming. Its joys, its challenges, its opportunities to grow in faith, deeper, stronger, to grow in love with you and with each other. Build this little church. It's a little church, but everyone here loves you, wants to do better, and help us, Lord, this new week, meet new people, neighbors, friends, not just to develop personal friendships, but friendships for the kingdom, introducing them to Jesus. I pray for our sister Monique that you will continue to bless her ministry as she encourages other people to prepare for heaven, prepare for hard times that are coming. Bless her family, help her get home safely, and pursue us all in your grace. Thank you for listening to our prayer in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Shabbat shalom.
Sabbath.
We don't have to practice that song.
I didn't even know it. That's the first time I've ever heard of it. I'm just gonna be honest, I'm like, you're struggling with the lyrics of the song.
Just sing that like.
Well then,
We gotta warm that one up.
Oh, yeah.
Very hot. Ones that are similar to
They'll come back here.
So, but there's, that's similar to.
Oh, man.
And stuff, the fan is behind all of the route. Yeah, exactly. And in order to do, these
Have a good
and the bananas, chips, or even any of the.
I know.
Have, mesh,
We see them.
that goes on top of the shelf. And so that's what.
not you.
But to do
I
something.
think we're losing a lot
like the roll-up, you're gonna have to have something like,
This church
if it
been there a
doesn't come
long
with
time.
the sheets
Don't worry about it.
already to hit like.
When I was
Yeah. And that's been a
We went to Silver Springs, but there was such a joint and we rented a trailer.
For the,
Yeah.
year.
That's what I did. They were a whole lot. You know,
On Saturday and
I
Thursday.
did some project paper.
Are you happy to stay? And then we
Take it
rented,
off. As soon as you
we rented, an old schoolhouse in another area.
What I was
doing here, I'm not-
And I can't remember if I was in the church first.
Still looking into it.
So we didn't have a church.
That's what I'm doing right now.
You were here for yourself.
Right.
Because now it's no longer.
It's
That was
That's
before
what
this
fine
church.
art individual communication.
And we built this church in
You don't want it so it's.
Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere around 60. And then later on, like, the church quarter.
You didn't tell the children's story Sunday. I'm trying to get the history of that.
I get.
Not a minute, children, not a 30-minute children's story. Yeah. Not many, you guys.
Yeah, the
That's
back is
the way I am.
Betty was here.
Well, she came, when,
You know,
when we
my
was,
husband and my son.
she came.
I just carried that away before. Yeah, so, but I usually just do it for myself. I usually backpacks, you know, because it is quick and.
So I go way back.
You know, I just do the flavors.
I was baptized in South Carolina.
Great.
I use first, I put it in, make a song. You know,
church that was built in a house.
I don't see it unless I really want to.
Built a
But
sanctuary in there
usually
and all
the
that.
seed that I put in is
Little bitty.
because,
We'll see y'all later.
Yeah.
Y'all have a good night.
Anyway.
when you're trying to flip this whole.
Bye, sweetie.
So I use, I don't use sugar as a sweetener because, the granules don't always get blended or dissolved in there well enough. Yes, that one too.
I would love it if some of your recipes.
Okay. Which one, the butter one?
Some of them.
Okay, I will send those to you. Yeah, we don't do a lot of dairy because my husband is lactose intolerant, so.
Well, my great grandson, I'm 76.
Mhm.
And so therefore, I go way back in this church.
Okay.
I went to Sulphur Springs and I was baptized in Sulphur Springs.
Okay.
And I went to Edinburgh, Seventh Day Adventist Church. And I can remember singing Jesus Loves Me.
Edinburgh, down south?
Down
That's
south.
where Noah was born. He was born in Edinburgh.
And Nelson.
Oh, okay. Nice.
So you know where Edinburgh is?
Yeah.
You are so welcome, you're so welcome.
Thanks so much.
Did you learn?
Anyway,
Good.
church. We
I know,
rented,
when I first,
another church.
this church, I was
Sabbath and church, it was their church.
5 years ago or so, I was talking to a friend in college. And when I first came in, one of the first things I learned about, it was actually about the pieces. And that was like my first taste.
Mind-boggling.
And I was just, but I think at the time, I was so consumed by the fear of it, and just like, not being physical, right? But I think now I have a lot of time, like, going back to it, I'm not more, we're not right here.
And I think
Nothing
they
else
To me, it's been fun. I'm not going to Vegas, right?
Exactly.
You know, so even though I.
Praise God. Praise God.
Sleep for breath.
That's okay. I don't know who's got it.
So I would need to.
That's
I was curious, 'cause I
exactly.
barely, I didn't grow up doing a lot of like camping. Okay, now where would I start? Where do you start? I live by myself in an apartment.
Okay. So I would
I wouldn't wear that.
but you don't have.
We see it.
Um,
Is Preston already?
He's going home with them. Tiffany and David to move. They're using his muscles.
Well, don't just not hurt his back. Be careful.
I know.
He's young, but if he hurts his back, then we do.
I'm hoping he doesn't.
All right. Have a good week.
I'll show him how.
Take care. Have a good week. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
But it's closed and stuff like that. Easy to clean and stuff. So that I can use it in my horse. And stuff like that. So,